They were both orphans with tragic pasts, yet the girl did everything in her power to protect the boy. She even stayed close to guard him while he slept, all because she had suddenly awakened to the fact that she was a transmigrator. In the original story, the girl, as a cannon fodder villain, was kicked out of the orphanage for bullying the male lead, Damien, and froze to death on the streets. To change her tragic fate, Ellie began acting as Damien's bodyguard, needing only to hold on until Duke Schweitz came to adopt the male lead. Once he started his happy life with the female lead according to the original plot, she would be able to save her own life and regain her freedom. Who knew that the plot would gradually go off the rails, and the Duke would want to take her home as a package deal. I want to make her my daughter-in-law. A great hobby of the nobles in this country is adopting orphans. To curry favor with the nobility, the orphanage director only took in good-looking children. Ellie was one of them, but because her mother was once a child prodigy, Ellie was despised by the nobles and was abandoned 3 times after being adopted. Until one accident, she awakened to her identity as a transmigrator. Familiar with the original plot, she looked forward to meeting one person, the male lead, Damien. Damien was once the young master of the house of Duke Clyde. Due to the Duke's family having high status, immense power, and wealth rivaling a nation, the emperor gradually grew wary and finally decided to eliminate them. The Duke and his wife thus fell from a cliff and died. But Duke Clyde, as if he knew this day would come, had left a while long ago. All his assets were entrusted to his only friend, Duke Schweitz, for safekeeping. And Duke Schweitz began a search for his friend's son, Damien, who had gone missing in the accident. And today was the day Damien officially appeared. Having lived the life of a slave since he was a child, Damien was covered in scars from torture, thin and frail. Seeing him in this state, Ellie couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. The orphanage director asked everyone to introduce him to the rules, and then left. The oldest child, Cass, aggressively took the lead, bringing a few of his followers to educate the newcomer again. In the original story, Ellie was one of them, but in this life, to save her own skin, she decisively refused Cass' invitation. He looks too weak. Noticing the lifelessness in the boy's eyes, Ellie recalled her own past experiences of being bullied. She couldn't help but shudder. It was just time for dinner. Knowing that the days of Damien being bullied were about to begin, Ellie planned to feign ignorance and not get involved. After all, he was the novel's male lead. He has the protagonist's halo. He will definitely have a good life in the future. A few beatings won't make a difference. But even as she said this, her body unconsciously wanted to help him. Thinking of his empty eyes, Ellie decided to help just this once and never again. When she knocked on the door, she saw Damien beaten and slumped on the floor. A trace of pity flashed in her eyes. She couldn't help but mock Cass, then put on a smiling face and made an excuse that the director was looking for them. Cass grabbed Damien, threatened him a few times, and left coolly with his followers. Only then did Ellie step forward to check his injuries. Seeing Damien casually wipe at them, she quickly stopped him. She took out an ointment she had stolen from the director and offered to apply it for him, but he said it wasn't necessary. He would just get beaten again before the wounds could heal, so applying medicine was useless. Ellie didn't expect him to understand this principle at such a young age. Resisting only leads to more beatings. Only obedience will quell the violence. But she still stuffed the ointment into his hand and turned to leave. Ellie had thought that knowing the novel would make her immune to the male lead's pain. But seeing his face, as pitiful as her own, still inexplicably tugged at her heartstrings. The boy was the heir to the wealthiest family in the empire. Yet his life was worse than a dog's. Ever since his parents were assassinated by the emperor, the surviving Damien began a dark life as a slave. Even when bullied at the orphanage, he just swallowed his anger. During dinner, Ellie didn't see Damien. She couldn't help but worry that the boy was going hungry. Ellie specifically saved her bread to bring to him, but he was nowhere to be found. Just then, Cass and his followers walked over. Cass told Ellie that he had just overheard the director talking, saying that Damien used to be a slave and had even hunted monsters in a pitch-black place. How is that possible with his small frame? Ellie, don't tell me you're interested in that guy. Ellie became wary. Cass had bullied most of the children in the orphanage, especially the children Ellie was interested in. He was even harsher with them because he had a crush on Ellie. She absolutely could not let Damien be bullied by him again. Ellie smiled sweetly. No, I think he just went to the warehouse. Maybe the teachers took him for a special meal. After all, he's so good looking, so they favor him. The director also said he could hunt monsters, so he must be very strong, right? Ellie's praise made Cass very unhappy. To prove he was stronger than Damien, Cass and his followers were about to go to the warehouse to teach him a lesson. Ellie stopped him. "This is something I saved especially for you." This made Cass a little embarrassed, thinking it was a declaration of love from his crush, not realizing it was a big trap she had dug. When they got to the warehouse and didn't see Damien, they were caught red-handed by a teacher as thieves. The bread in their hands served as stolen goods, irrefutable evidence. A severe punishment awaited them. Late at night, Ellie went out alone to look for Damien, thinking about the rumor that he had killed monsters in a dark place. Could he be hiding deep in the woods? In the original story, the Duke once asked Damien why his swordsmanship was so excellent at such a young age. "To survive in the darkness, I had to practice my swordsmanship diligently." Originally, I thought this line was just to emphasize the male lead's dark upbringing and environment, until seeing the boy huddled in a ball in the woods. Ellie realized this was his reality. "You get sick like this. Cass and his group have been dealt with by the teacher. You can sleep soundly tonight. Come back with me." But Damien didn't move. "That's only temporary. They'll be back tomorrow. I still feel more comfortable here." Ellie realized that Damien had been suffering in a dark abyss. He would rather stay in the freezing snow than be with people. But who would want to be like that all the time? She promised the boy that they wouldn't come back, and even if they did, they would disappear soon. "I promise you, no one will bully you anymore." Looking at the girl's gentle face, Damien was in a daze. The image of Ellie giving him ointment reappeared. A warmth he had never felt before enveloped his whole body. "Why are you so good to me?" "Because I want to be." This was Ellie's true feeling. She couldn't end up as miserable and lost as in the original story. She extended her hand to the boy. "Let's go eat." Damien took that hand, as if grasping onto the hope of escaping the darkness. The girl quietly led the boy into the bedroom and immediately told him to take off his clothes. This left Damien completely bewildered. "I told you to take off your clothes. How else are you going to take a bath? Only the bathroom in the director's room has hot water. You are frozen into an ice block in the snow. If you don't soak in a hot bath soon, you'll get frostbite and your hands and feet will rot." Seeing the boy not reacting for a long time, Ellie thought he was shy. Who knew Damien would say, timidly, "My body looks disgusting. You'll definitely be scared when you see it." Ellie realized that his body must be covered in scars from his time as a slave. Ellie held his hand. "Your body isn't disgusting at all, so you don't need to be upset. We can't waste any more time. If the director comes back, we won't be able to bathe." With that, Damien was thrown into the bathroom. The boy soaked his whole body in the hot water. The long-lost feeling of comfort made him relax completely. After he finished washing, Ellie peeked her head in and asked if it felt good, and brought him clean clothes to wear, but they were a bit too big and hung loosely on him. Ellie also stole a sandwich from the warehouse for him to eat. But Damien, who had lived as a slave since childhood, had never seen one before. "This is outrageous. How vicious were those slave traders to abuse a child like this? This is called a sandwich. You could just bite into the pointy part." Seeing Ellie eat with relish, Damien also took a big bite. "What is this heavenly delicacy?" His silly look was like a puppy with chubby cheeks. Seeing that Damien's hair was still dripping, Ellie took a towel and helped him dry his hair, reminding him not to catch a cold. The words of concern made Damien rely on Ellie even more, even bending down to make it easier for her to dry his hair. His obedient appearance melted Ellie's heart. Just then, Ellie suddenly noticed a mark on his neck that looked like a beast bite. Damien explained that it was there when his master found him, so he had always kept his hair long. Hearing this, Ellie only felt sad. What a cruel world the Damien from the original story lived in. She lifted the boy's heavy bangs. The moment their eyes met, Ellie was stunned by his appearance. This innocent face, these azure eyes. He was even more handsome than she had imagined. Seeing the girl staring at him, Damien blushed a little. Ellie thought he had a fever and quickly asked if he was feeling unwell anywhere. "No, I'm just a little hot." Only then did Ellie feel relieved. She then took Damien back to the room. Cass hadn't returned from being caught by the teacher. But to prevent him from bullying Damien when he returned, "You'll sleep in the same bed with me tonight." Sleep here? The girl, as the male lead's bodyguard, even had to huddle in the same bed with him to sleep. This left Damien at a loss. At Ellie's urging, he climbed onto the bed, blushing and stiff all over. The moment they were close, Ellie smelled the fragrance coming from the boy. "It smells so good. Let me smell it again." That seems a bit perverted. Ellie said good night to Damien. Seeing the boy motionless, "Aren't you going to say good night to me?" Damien said goodnight and buried himself in the covers. This sight was about to melt Ellie's heart. Ellie quickly fell asleep. At this moment, Damien opened his big eyes and quietly observed her. Why is she so good to me? Is it out of guilt? Recalling the day, all the little things Ellie did to be kind to him. Am I really not disgusting? The way she looks at me, her eyes are so beautiful. But I'm just a slave, and I can't have expectations. I can't have expectations. Thinking this, Damien also fell asleep. In his dream, the terror he had experienced in the past struck again. In the darkness, he faced those terrifying monsters alone, while his master watched with great interest, anticipating the upcoming slaughter. No one helped him. He could only rely on himself to fight the monsters to the death. Damien, Ellie's call, finally woke him from the nightmare. He gasped for breath, and his appearance made Ellie very worried. You're sweating so much. Are you sick? This left Damien at a loss. No one had ever cared for him like this. He grabbed Ellie, who was about to go, to get medicine, and forced himself to say he was fine. The girl caringly stroked the boy's head. This gave Damien a strange feeling, and his heart couldn't help but beat faster, like sunlight warming his entire body. If I say I'm not feeling well, will Ellie be even nicer to me? As he was thinking this, a loud bang was suddenly heard. Cass angrily pushed the door open. Ellie, you tricked me on purpose, didn't you? Having seen through Ellie's setup, Cass turned his anger towards Damien. It's all because of this kid, isn't it? Ellie stood in front of Damien. You were tricked because you're too stupid. Cass rushed over in a rage. How could you do this to me? Just then, a teacher came in and caught him in the act of bullying. Cass tried to argue that Ellie started it, and that Ellie had tricked him into going to the warehouse yesterday. Seeing the teacher's suspicious look, Ellie's inner drama queen emerged, and she started acting. She put on a pitiful, wronged expression. Yesterday, Damien was sick, and I wanted to get some medicine from the teacher. But Cass said the teachers all went to the casino. Tears welled up in Ellie's eyes. How could the teachers abandon us and go to the casino? Hearing this, the teacher felt a little guilty because he had not only gone to gamble, but also had a rendezvous with his lover in the warehouse. Seeing Ellie cry more and more pitifully and about to go to the director, the teacher quickly stopped her and blamed everything on Cass. He dragged him out for a harsh lesson. Cass felt incredibly wronged. He couldn't explain himself even if he had 100 mouths. The room became quiet. It seemed Damien wouldn't be bullied for a short while. She turned to the bewildered boy and showed off proudly. See, I told you I wouldn't let anyone bully you again. The little bully was preparing to get his revenge, but how could he be a match for the drama queen? She could win with just a few tears, while he could only be brutally punished. Confined, Cass gritted his teeth in anger. But being love-struck, he didn't think it was the girl's fault at all. It must be that kid Damien's doing. Just you wait. I will become the only one Ellie cares about. After the recent commotion ended, seeing Damien's questioning expression, Ellie told him that adults are supposed to help children. In the future, someone will definitely help you. When that time comes, please believe that you will surely live a happy life. This was Ellie hinting at the future appearance of the Duke and the female lead. But in Damien's eyes, the angelic Ellie was the shore of his future happiness. Ellie didn't know about Damien's little thoughts. She thought he was concerned about her lying to the teacher just now. Ellie was about to explain, but the boy understood everything she did. If you want revenge, you have to be ruthless. Even though I lied, it's much better than silently enduring bullying. She warned Damien not to swallow his anger and let others bully him in the future. Looking at the girl's beautiful profile, this was the first time he had heard such a thing. All this time, to survive, he only knew how to obey all of his master's commands. Now, for Ellie, he decided he must become strong in the future, to protect her just as she protected him. He meant what he said. At this time, the orphanage director woke up with a hangover after a night of partying. Opening the door, he saw Damien and Ellie busy in the kitchen. Why is this slave working here? It turned out the director had made a deal with Damien's master to help raise this slave while he was away. He would be sent back soon. If his master found out he had been made to work, he would surely be given a hard time. The director was about to call out to Damien when he was suddenly interrupted by a commotion outside. It turned out Cass had been caught sneaking out of the darkroom. He was angrily coming to settle scores with Damien. The director asked what happened. The teacher explained that Cass had stolen something from the warehouse and kept denying it. The director directly told the teacher to take him away. Seeing that there was no escape, I can't be the only one to suffer. He pointed a finger. Actually, Damien went to the warehouse too. He just ran away on his own. That's not true. Damien didn't go to the warehouse. He was sick at the time and stayed in the room with me. Ellie immediately stood up to defend Damien. This surprised the director. Ever since being abandoned 3 times, Ellie had always been quiet and unassuming. It was strange that she would speak up for Damien this time. In front of the girl, he's obedient and gentle, but in front of others, he reveals his fierce nature. The puppy-like male lead plays the double standard game perfectly, just to monopolize the girl's tenderness. Just now, the director couldn't be bothered with the children's disputes and told the teacher to handle it. He also wanted to take Damien away and not let him work anymore. But the boy tightly gripped the corner of Ellie's clothes, unwilling to leave her side, only after the girl patted his head and told him she would come find him right after she finished her work, did Damien reluctantly follow the teacher. In a noisy cafeteria, Damien squatted alone in a corner, obediently waiting for Ellie to find him. He didn't want to be alone, but he also didn't want Ellie to think he was too clingy, until he heard Ellie's call. His recent unhappiness instantly vanished. He held her small hand and followed behind her, carefully asking if he could sit next to her. Who knew Tommy would suddenly appear, unleashing his powerful third wheel energy? The spot next to Ellie is mine. It turned out that before Damien came, he was the one who always sat next to the girl. Damien burned with rage. Who are you? To take care of the newcomer Damien, Ellie coaxed him. Handsome boys are always considerate, aren't they? Tommy immediately gave up his seat. I'll give it to you, because I'm the most handsome man. After saying that, he looked at Damien's innocent little face, thinking he was a simple and kind child. Just then, a girl's cry was heard. It was Betty, who had accidentally dirted her doll while eating. The girl told the two of them to eat first while she went to comfort Betty. Don't worry, the doll is just a little wet. It'll be fine once it's washed. Big sister will go clean it for you now. Seeing Ellie leave, Damien became silent again. Tommy took the initiative to introduce himself, who knew the other boy would just give him a cold glance and turn his head away. Tommy thought he was just shy and explained that he was Ellie's good friend and they could all play together in the future. Unexpectedly, upon hearing the words good friend, Damien's eyes immediately turned icy. He stared at the other boy gloomily. Tommy only felt the surrounding temperature drop suddenly. Just then, Ellie returned to check on them, asking if Damien had eaten well. The boy, who was just radiating a low pressure, immediately put on an obedient look, nodding like a pecking chicken and eating obediently in big mouthfuls. Tommy's expression was as if he had seen a ghost, but Damien's warning glare kept him from saying much. But inwardly, he couldn't help but complain frantically. How is this kid simple at all? He's practically a fierce beast. Ellie, you've been completely fooled. The boy was clearly a beast capable of taking down monsters. Yet he pretended to be a cute little puppy in front of the girl, just to become a special existence in the girl's heart. This day, after Damien finished his bath, Ellie helped him dry his hair, as usual. Looking at his chubby little face, she really wanted to. But then she thought, what if his face was revealed and some noble took a liking to him and took him away? That can't happen. According to the original plot, Damien's adoptive father must be Duke Schweitz. So, before they meet, it's better not to let others see his beauty. The two returned to the bedroom to sleep. Ellie pointed to a bed against the wall and told Damien that he would sleep there from now on. Damien didn't react at first. Does this mean he can't sleep with Ellie anymore? The boy's mood instantly dropped. He was silent for a moment. Slowly, he climbed onto his own bed, his spirits extremely low, like a little dog abandoned by its owner. Ellie thought he was just tired today. She said good night, as usual. Hope you have a good dream. Damien pondered for a moment. You too, Ellie, have a sweet dream. This left the girl pleasantly surprised. This was the first time Damien had called her by her name. It turned out that just one sentence from him could make her so happy. In the middle of the night, Ellie got up to use the bathroom and found that Damien was gone. Beside her, Betty was hugging her doll, trembling with fear. Brother Cass is back. Hearing this, Ellie knew something was wrong, and it was true. At this moment, Cass was with his followers, cornering Damien. After being frustrated for several days, he finally had a chance to vent his anger. Let me tell you, you're nothing to Ellie. Hearing this, Damien's eyes turned cold and terrifying. He stared deadly at Cass, recalling Ellie's words to him. Damien, don't swallow your anger and let others bully you in the future. The boy clenched his fists, deciding to fight back. But Cass' next words made him freeze. Ellie only feels sorry for a weakling like you. Don't be so full of yourself and think you're special. She just pities you. These words shattered Damien's heart. When he was a slave, he was used to hearing such hurtful words. But when he heard that he was nothing to Ellie, why did it feel like sinking into a swamp? Damien's heart was like dead ashes, and he had given up resisting. But Cass continued his violence. He grabbed Damien and pushed him into the lake. Damien muttered Ellie's name. The next second, Ellie rushed forward and grabbed Damien. The girl stared at Cass with eyes full of anger. "What are you doing?" The girl woke up to find the boy beside her gone. Learning that Cass had taken the boy, Ellie rushed to the lake. This was Cass' usual trick. He would push anyone he disliked into the lake. When Ellie arrived, she saw exactly that. At the critical moment, she rushed forward and grabbed Damien. Ellie questioned if Cass was crazy to do something so life-threatening, but Cass felt wronged. In his eyes, it was Ellie who had changed. Not only did she stop bullying others with him for fun, she was also gentle and caring towards this kid Damien. This change made him extremely jealous. The more Cass thought about it, the angrier he got. His anger made him raise his fist and charge at Damien. Ellie was quick, pulling Damien into her arms and leaping aside to dodge. But Cass, unable to stop his momentum, fell straight into the water. Ellie first checked on Damien's condition. After confirming he was okay, she pulled him away quickly, leaving Cass and his followers stunned. This was the first time Damien had seen Ellie so angry. Why? Was she angry that he caused her trouble? Thinking this, he let go of her hand. But Ellie turned and asked him, "Why didn't you fight back just now?" The sadness in Damien's eyes was about to overflow. "So she really is angry at me?" Damien asked her desperately, "Are you taking care of me just because you pity me? If so, then forget it. I'm already used to this kind of life." This made Ellie anxious. She hurriedly explained that she didn't think he was weak. On the contrary, she thought he was stronger than anyone. This was the first time someone had used the word strong to describe him. He had already prepared himself psychologically. But at this moment, Damien still cried. Thankfully, Ellie didn't hate him. All his grievances burst out in an instant. Seeing the boy cry, Ellie panicked, explaining over and over again. She even made a pinky promise with him, vowing that she would never hate or despise him in the future. Damien firmly held Ellie's hand. From now on, he would always hold her hand and sit next to her during meals. Ellie once again reminded him not to just sit and wait to be bullied in the future, but to fight back bravely, and not to overthink things on his own. On the way back to the orphanage, Damien recalled what Ellie had said. "In the future, someone will definitely help you. When that time comes, please believe. You will surely live a happy life." So, even though he was crying now, he was very happy. This must be the feeling of happiness. In the dim room, cold bodies lay scattered on the floor. A man was sheathing his blood-dripping sword. This person was Duke Schweitz, who was searching for Damien. Due to incorrect information, he had to clean up some riffraff. Now it was time to search the next area. The boy had a fever of 49 degrees, but he insisted he wasn't sick, just not wanting the girl to worry. Recalling last night, Damien was almost pushed into the lake by Cass. Thankfully, Ellie arrived in time. After returning, he turned into a pitiful little puppy, begging to lie in the same bed with Ellie. Otherwise, he would have nightmares and couldn't sleep. But Ellie was concerned the bed was too narrow and would crowd Damien. But seeing the boy's pitiful face, she softened, looking at the boy lying beside her, his face beaming with a happy smile. Ellie was very pleased and couldn't help but joke. Lying together like this, we look like a brother and sister. But Damien said, "I'm not your little brother. But you're only 11 this year and I'm 13. If not a little brother, what are you?" Hearing this, Damien fell silent. Ellie saw the boy's unhappy face and thought he disliked being seen as a child. She quickly comforted him. "Actually, sleeping with you feels especially warm." This made Damien instantly understand, and he stammered, "Me too, Ellie." They said goodnight and both fell asleep, perhaps with Ellie's company. Damien played happily with Ellie in his dreams. He thanked Ellie from the bottom of his heart. "I'm so happy to have you by my side." But the next day, Damien developed a fever. The thermometer was off the charts, but the boy forced himself to endure. This made Ellie blame herself for not taking good care of him. She told Damien to rest well, and she would come back to accompany him right after finishing her work. Although Damien really didn't want Ellie to leave, he could only be obedient so as not to worry her. Ellie was cleaning the director's office. She wanted to steal some medicine for Damien after the director left. But today, the director seemed to be in a bad mood. Seeing Ellie dawdling, he yelled at her to get out. It turned out the orphanage was having financial problems and had been losing money, which put him under a lot of pressure. The director looked at the cabinet where the mana stones were kept. Should he sell these treasures for money? He couldn't bear to. He turned and looked at Ellie with disgust. If she weren't the daughter of a thief, she could have been sold for a large sum to help pay off his debts. Just then, a teacher ran to report to the director. Because Duke Schweitz would visit the home of every noble who adopted a child to confirm if it was his friend Duke Clyde's son. The nobles were afraid of meeting him and didn't dare to come adopt children anymore. Following the director's instructions, he had spread the news that Duke Clyde's son was here. Duke Schweitz would surely come soon. But the teacher was a little scared. If it was discovered that this was a lie, wouldn't the Duke kill them? The director said disdainfully, "The Duke has never even seen the child's face. He only knows he has black hair and blue eyes, so he won't be able to recognize him." And at this moment, Ellie, who overheard this conversation, couldn't control her racing heart. The man she had been waiting for was finally coming. He was coming to save Damien. To find his late friend's son, the man had turned the empire upside down. He even went to the home of every noble who had adopted an orphan to check if it was a child with black hair and blue eyes. This day, the Duke got a clue and went to the home of Damien's previous master. But the woman mistook him for an ordinary rich man and planned to rob and kill him, just as his life was about to be in danger. The woman quickly said that the child he was looking for was now in an orphanage. His subordinate had also received a message a few days ago, saying the child was indeed in the nearby holy orphanage. It was called an orphanage, but in essence, it was a place for the dirty business of buying and selling children. The Duke couldn't wait a moment longer. He immediately set off for the orphanage, but the orphanage director didn't know that disaster was about to strike. Learning that the Duke was coming, he became worried because several children were sick. He couldn't let the Duke see sick and frail children. With no other choice, the director decided to reluctantly sell a mana stone to give the children some cheap medicine to put on a show. Unexpectedly, the moment he opened the cabinet, he was stunned. Several mana stones had vanished. Meanwhile, Ellie was taking care of the feverish Damien. She was about to get some water to wipe the boy's face. Although he was delirious with fever, Damien still clung to her and wouldn't let her go. Ellie soothed Damien. She had planned to secretly bring a mana stone, as the spiritual energy it emitted would make Damien feel a little better. But now it seemed to have no effect. The boy's flushed little face unconsciously rubbed against the girl's hand. Ellie was instantly smitten. After waiting for Damien to finally fall asleep, Ellie took the opportunity to run out and get water, not noticing the director suddenly appearing behind her. "What are you doing?" Faced with the director's questioning, Ellie instantly put on a smile. "Damien is sick. I'm taking care of him." Unexpectedly, the director pulled the mana stone directly from her pocket. "So you stole this for Damien too?" As a transmigrator, Ellie was not flustered by this situation. She feigned ignorance and laughed it off, and said she got it from Cass. The director wasn't so easy to fool, so shameless, just like the daughter of a thief. This sentence hit Ellie's sore spot. The director looked triumphant. He was about to teach Ellie a lesson, but the slap landed on Damien's face. It turned out he had shielded Ellie at the critical moment. The boy stared deadly at the director. "If you dare hit Ellie, I will never let you go," because she was the daughter of a thief. The girl was despised everywhere. Even the orphanage director detested her background. Only Damien saw the girl as an angel in his life, standing up to protect her when the director was beating her. "If you dare hit Ellie, I will never let you go." The boy's fierce demeanor left the director at a loss. Just then, a teacher ran in hurriedly, saying Duke Schweitz was about to arrive. The director didn't expect him to be so fast. He told the teacher to immediately bring the children with black hair and blue eyes to the office, uttered a harsh word, and turned to leave. But Ellie grabbed the director. "Damien, he also has black hair and blue eyes. Are you trying to embarrass me by having me bring such a sickly child to see the Duke?" Ellie wanted to argue further, but Damien fainted from exhaustion. The director sneered and left the two of them. Ellie held the unconscious boy, determined that "I will definitely let you see your family." Meanwhile, the Duke arrived at the orphanage gate, but only a few teachers came to greet him. The Duke observed the surroundings. This orphanage was almost completely isolated from the world. He sensed that something was not right. The Duke directly asked where the child was. Seeing the teacher stammer for a long time, the Duke went in to find him himself. As he turned a corner, he bumped right into a little girl. This person was Ellie. The Duke knelt down to apologize to the girl, and what met his eyes were Ellie's clear green eyes. This made the Duke pause. Ellie pretended not to know his identity and asked if he was here to adopt a child. She even enthusiastically told him that the 5 boys with black hair and blue eyes were all in the office. The girl's lively and cheerful demeanor caught the attention of his aide, Antai. There had been people like her before who were not afraid of the Duke, but that was a long time ago. When they reached the director's office, the children started crying as soon as they saw the Duke. The director confidently said that the child he was looking for was definitely among them. The Duke took out the Manhwa stone containing the child's spiritual energy, but the stone showed no reaction. The director was deceiving him. He immediately ordered Ontai to strike the director. Seeing the situation turn bad, the director still insisted that the child was among these 4 children. But the girl just now said there were 5 children. The Duke flashed towards the director, his sword at the director's neck. "Where's the child you're hiding? If you dare to lie, I'll kill you immediately." Because of a girl's words, the man held a knife to the orphanage director's neck just to find his friend's son who had been missing for years. And at this moment, Ellie was also filled with emotion. The Duke was finally going to take Damien away. But after spending so many days together, she was surprisingly reluctant to part. She told the feverish boy, Damien, "From now on, you won't get sick anymore." The boy didn't yet understand the meaning of her words when he saw a tall, unfamiliar man stride into the room. The Duke's excited appearance surprised Ontai. Since his wife's death, this was the first time he had seen the Duke like this. The Duke first saw the frail Damien. Then he noticed Ellie beside him. Isn't this the child who bumped into him just now? Perhaps because the Duke's gaze was too probing, Damien once again forced himself to stand in front of Ellie. Although his body was swaying, he still warned the man, "If you dare to bully Ellie, I don't care who you are, I won't let you go." Just then, the Manhwa stone suddenly reacted. A powerful spiritual energy surged out. The Duke was certain he had finally found his friend Clyde's son. At this moment, Damien suddenly fainted. The Duke explained that it was because he was absorbing the spiritual energy that had been taken from him. It would be good for strengthening his body. Ellie touched his forehead. Damien's fever had indeed subsided. Having found the child, the Duke was ready to settle accounts. He questioned the teachers, "Why is this child in this state?" The terrified teachers ran to find the director. Ellie looked at the man. He was indeed as powerful as described in the book. The Duke looked at Ellie, who was busy taking care of the boy, and felt that this girl seemed to know in advance that he was coming. Ellie knew the Duke was not to be trifled with. She carefully explained. It was because she had heard the director mention before that you were looking for a child with black hair and blue eyes. You deliberately told me there were 5 children. Ellie admitted it. The Duke asked her why she didn't just bring Damien to him directly. Ellie had her own considerations. She wanted the Duke to first walk around the orphanage and see for himself how terrible the children's living conditions were. All the work was done by the children themselves. The teachers would even run off to casinos at night for fun, leaving the children unattended. The girl's determined eyes were so familiar. This made the Duke pause for a moment. Just then, the director was brought over. The Duke got straight to the point that, "I want to adopt this child." Then he looked at Ellie. "I'm adopting this child next to him as well. I want to make her my daughter-in-law." This man was getting a buy one, get one free deal even when adopting children. Not only was he taking a boy as his son, but he was also taking the girl beside him as his daughter-in-law. Now, Ellie was unsettled. How is this different from what was written in the original story? Damien's future wife should be the female lead. But looking at the boy, who was calling her name in his sleep, she knew she was also very reluctant to part with Damien. The thought that they wouldn't have to be separated made her quite happy. But the director was unwilling. If Ellie went with the Duke, she would definitely expose his mistreatment of the children. Then his own life would surely be in danger. The director directly revealed Ellie's identity to the Duke. This brat is the daughter of a lowly thief. Her mother was the thief who stole from Count Radione's mansion. It turned out that Ellie's mother, as a thief, had once caused a sensation because she had evaded layers of guards and snuck into the imperial palace to steal the emperor's treasure. But she was never caught until she was later discovered at the count's house and eventually died by suicide there. The director talked his head off, hoping the Duke would give up on adopting Ellie. But the Duke couldn't be bothered to listen to a single word he said. "Since when do you get to tell me what to do?" The man suddenly knelt on one knee before the girl. "The choice is yours. Are you willing to come with me?" Looking at the man's sincere eyes, Ellie proposed a condition. "Please dismiss all the teachers here." Even if the Duke adopted her and Damien, the remaining children would still suffer here. She hoped the Duke could punish these irresponsible adults and arrange for responsible people to take care of these orphans. so that these children would no longer be treated as commodities to be bought and sold at will. The Duke readily agreed. Now the director was completely panicked. He had no more chance to speak and was dragged out to be dealt with. The Duke was decisive and efficient. Ellie didn't expect him to agree so readily. The Duke once again extended his hand to the girl. "Are you willing to come with me?" "Yes, I am." Although she didn't know the reason for the Duke's adoption, being able to stay by Damien's side made Ellie feel very secure. She would just protect him until he met the real female lead. After everything was arranged, Ellie packed her luggage and prepared to leave. Looking at the orphanage where she had lived for many years, Ellie felt genuinely happy for the children here. They could finally live a comfortable and peaceful life. The children Ellie usually took care of all came out to see her off, bidding her a reluctant farewell. Seeing the girl's genuine smile, the suspicion in the Duke's heart also disappeared. He had originally thought this child was a spy planted by the Emperor, but he could see that Ellie genuinely cared for these orphans. The image of that woman appeared in his mind again, that feeling of familiarity. At this moment, Damien, who had been hiding behind a tree, was discovered by the Duke. Damien was very wary of this man. "Why are you taking me and Ellie away? What do you want to do to us?" The Duke wanted to adopt the boy as his son, but the boy was completely unwilling, simply because in his eyes, all adults were cunning and terrifying. He had been a slave before, a plaything for his master. Now, he absolutely could not let Ellie suffer the same fate. Damien questioned the Duke. "Why are you taking me and Ellie away?" In fact, the Duke wanted to return Damien to his rightful place. As the young master of the Clyde family, he had to reclaim everything that belonged to him. Although Damien now looked like a fierce little beast, once he truly returned to that position, he would be able to protect the person he wanted to protect. Ellie said she wouldn't always be by his side. He must protect Ellie well. Damien threatened the Duke. "You are not allowed to order Ellie around. Dirty work is absolutely forbidden." The Duke was speechless. "What kind of person do you take me for? If you dare to bully Ellie, I will never let you go." After uttering his harsh words, Damien turned and left, leaving the Duke alone, gritting his teeth in anger. This kid is just like his father, only currying favor and acting cute in front of the person he likes, but baring his fangs at others. How can this father and son be so alike? The carriage back to the city moved slowly. The two little ones snuggled together, drowsy. Suddenly, a noise outside the window startled Ellie. A flock of crows, with gloomy gazes, stood on the bare branches. The surrounding dull and oppressive, terrifying atmosphere made her bones chill. Could it be that monsters have already spread here? Just then, a crow flapped its wings outside the window, its gaze meeting Ellie's. Scared, Ellie turned her head away. After an unknown amount of time, the carriage stopped in front of a magnificent castle. Ellie couldn't help but exclaim, "This is amazing." But then she saw the crows circling in the sky and couldn't help but be stunned. The butler had been waiting for a long time. When he learned that the Duke had also brought back a daughter-in-law, he just felt it was typical and couldn't help but sigh. This made Ellie mistakenly think she was being disliked again. She recalled the times she was adopted before. At first, they doted on her, but when they learned she was the daughter of a thief, their disgusted expressions still broke her heart. But now, she was here only for Damien, and she had become immune to those words. But the butler's tone suddenly changed. "You didn't inform me in advance, so I haven't prepared any maids to serve the young lady." This surprised Ellie. She quickly said she could take care of herself. She didn't want these people to think she was a troublesome lady. Ontai then told the Duke that the vassals and collateral family members were waiting. It seemed the news of Damien's return was already known to everyone. Although the Duke had adopted Damien now, it would be a long time before they truly became a close-knit family. Before that, those vassals and collateral relatives would be stumbling blocks on Damien's path of growth. Ellie would absolutely not allow Damien to suffer any harm. The first time the girl saw her own room, she was speechless. Oh my God, this luxurious decoration, exquisite furnishings, and the 10-meter wide soft bed all screamed one thing: rich. Ellie was deeply shocked. She turned to pull Damien along with her, but saw 4 maids waiting behind her. The head maid, Roina, introduced, "Young Master Damien is with the butler. From today on, we will be your maids." Xiao Na, Xiao Yi, and Xiao Sha all greeted Ellie gently. Ellie bowed politely in return. This was the first time in her life she had been served by so many people, so it was inevitably a bit awkward. awkward. The maids were also charmed by Ellie's cuteness. With everything ready, Ellie was about to take a bath. The thought of her malnourished body being seen by everyone made Ellie a little shy, but she decided to be generous and not let the maids look down on her. Xiao Xia asked if Ellie had a favorite aromatic oil. Ellie had never heard of aromatic oils. Hot water was enough for a bath, because the water in the orphanage was always too cold. As soon as she said this, everyone fell silent. Ellie thought she had said something wrong. The head maid's tone carried a hint of pity to "We will do our best to find an aromatic oil you like. And please don't be so polite with us. We will work even harder to serve you until you get tired of us." After washing up, Ellie finally lay down on the bed. Even though someone helped her bathe, it took even longer than washing herself. Refreshed, Ellie rolled around contentedly, but she bumped into the sleeping Damien beside her. The boy with his hair cut looked even more soft and cute. And at this time, in the meeting room, the vassals and collateral relatives of the Schweitz family were in a frenzy. They all had objections to Damien's return. Originally, after Duke Clyde's death, he entrusted his merchant group to Duke Schweitz. For the past 11 years, the Schweitz family had been running the merchant group, making a fortune. Now, they were being asked to return it all to a little brat of mysterious origins. Naturally, they were extremely unwilling, especially the Viscount. He was determined not to let the prize he had in his grasp just fly away. Just as they were in heated discussion, the Duke arrived. He got straight to the point, saying, "I have found Clyde's son." The vassals congratulated the Duke, but also asked directly, "Will this child be the head of the Clyde family from now on?" Of course not. Damien is still too young. He doesn't have the ability to take over the family. If he returns to his own house now, he'll surely be devoured by those clan members until not even his bones are left. The Duke changed the subject, saying that this time, he also brought back a clever and bright girl, and he planned to spare no effort in teaching them until they were qualified to inherit the Clyde surname. As soon as these words were spoken, the vassals became agitated. On what grounds? They would have to cultivate their own future competitors. But their strong opposition could not shake the Duke's resolve. "I have already decided to adopt them, and when the time comes, I will have them marry." It turned out the Duke had long considered that these people would use any means necessary to seize the merchant group. They would find a way to drive Damien away or have a girl from their own family marry him. But as long as he arranged Damien's marriage partner, then these vassals would no longer be able to seize what originally belonged to Damien. The girl told the boy, "We will become a couple in the future." But the boy looked bewildered, not knowing the meaning of love. Ellie also didn't know how to explain. In short, when you see the one you love, your heart will feel itchy and your body will get hot like you have a fever. Your heart will also pound. Damien suddenly realized, could it be that my feelings for Ellie are love? The boy was so nervous, he couldn't stop hiccuping. He frantically dodged the girl's concerned inquiry. Ellie thought Damien was frightened. She pinched the boy's flushed little face. Damien stammered that he was just too hot. Unexpectedly, the girl immediately distanced herself from him. "Then I'll stay a little farther away from you. The bed is big anyway." Damien was instantly disappointed. No, he didn't want to be separated from Ellie. Seeing the boy remain silent, she asked, "Are you afraid of having a nightmare like last time?" Her words struck a chord with the boy. To soothe his uneasy emotions, Ellie gently pulled Damien into her arms. "This way, you won't have nightmares. Close your eyes and be good." "Good night, Damien." In a dreamscape filled with a galaxy of stars, the two, nestled together, slept soundly through the night. But there were always dirty ambitions secretly growing. The Viscount sent out spies. They found out that Ellie's mother was a thief who had once stolen His Majesty's treasure. He sneered, "A little brat of unknown origin and the daughter of a lowly thief. They're truly a match made in heaven. These two little brats, on what grounds can they take away the merchant group I've worked so hard to manage for years? I must get rid of that thief's daughter." A vicious plan was quickly born. The next morning, Ellie was pulled up to be dressed and groomed. Today was the day she and Damien would meet the elders and vassals. Ellie, in a long pink dress, looked even more serene and lovely. The maids were also captivated by her beauty, but Ellie felt that being served was more tiring than before. She sat on the sofa waiting for Damien. At this moment, the Viscount suddenly knocked on the door to visit. Ignoring the maid's attempt to stop him, He barged in and looked down at Ellie with eyes full of disdain, his whole body screaming with arrogance. Ellie knew this visitor did not come with good intentions. She put on a smile and greeted him politely. The Viscount said he came specifically to give Miss Ellie a gift, a precious spirit stone. It was a spirit stone called Azure Hope, rare in quantity and expensive in price. And this was the very prop the Viscount planned to use to frame Ellie. Since she's the daughter of a thief, then I'll just let everyone see her steal something. The man was all smiles on the surface, but his mind was churning with wicked ideas. He came early in the morning to curry favor, wanting to give Ellie a blindingly brilliant spirit stone. Yet he sent the head maid away, so no one else was present. The Viscount instantly revealed his true colors. Stop looking. This isn't something you can covet. Ellie was speechless. I knew you weren't that kind. However, I'm a very generous person. If you want to look, I'll let you look your fill. He had Ellie look at it and then hand it to the maid beside her. After saying that, he left on his own. Ellie was completely baffled. Just then, the head maid told her it was getting late and time to leave. Ellie got up, ready to go out. But the Viscount's maid had a mission. The Viscount had told her to find an opportunity to put the spirit stone in Ellie's pocket, to frame her for stealing. The maid picked up the stone and held it in her hand. Making an excuse to leave, she walked to Ellie's side, pretended to twist her ankle, and lunged towards the girl. In the chaos, she threw the stone into Ellie's pocket. Her movements were incredibly smooth. Her acting was superb. The head maid was only concerned with asking if Ellie was hurt, and Ellie didn't seem to have noticed anything unusual either. She walked over to the maid, asked if her fall hurt, and even helped pat the dust off her clothes. Only after everything was fine did she leave for the meeting hall. Ellie introduced herself to the vassals. My name is Ellie, but she was mocked for being a commoner without even a surname. Beside her, Damien was furious, but was stopped by the Duke. Before he has the ability, it's best to stay quiet and not cause trouble. Just then, the Viscount arrived late. As soon as he entered, he proposed to show the Duke that precious spirit stone. But the maid whispered in his ear, the spirit stone is missing. The Viscount deliberately shouted loudly, attracting the attention of everyone present. The maid stammered, actually, after that young lady finished admiring it, she didn't return it to me. The implication was that Ellie had stolen it. The Viscount, as if he had anticipated this, took the opportunity to reveal Ellie's background. Her mother was actually a notorious thief. As soon as this was said, the vassals erupted. They could not accept a thief's daughter living here. The Duke understood perfectly. So you're putting on a big show for me. Who knew the Viscount would push his luck even further? He proposed to search Ellie, to catch her red-handed. In order to seize the billion-dollar fortune, the man framed the girl to drive her out of the wealthy family. He first arranged for a maid to place a precious gem into the girl's pocket, then accused the girl of being a thief in front of everyone. He even wanted to search her to catch her red-handed. Ellie trembled with fear. She explained that she did not take the gem, but the Viscount insisted on confirming it on the spot. Seeing that explanations were useless, Ellie had to agree. But if no gem was found, she demanded an apology. The Viscount signaled the maid to search her, but she searched all over Ellie for a long time and found no trace of a gem. This shouldn't be. I clearly put it in. The maid had to tell the Viscount that she couldn't find it. This infuriated the man. He went to search her himself. Indeed, no gem was found. The people present began to murmur, starting to doubt whether the Viscount's accusation was true or false. The man was exasperated. He forcefully grabbed the girl and asked her where she hid the gem. Damien wanted to go and save her, but the Viscount's hand was already restrained. It was the Duke. What madness are you up to? I think you're the most suspicious one now. Saying so, he had anti-searched the Viscount. A second ago, the Viscount had a clear conscience, but the next second he was dumbfounded, because the gem was actually found on him. The Viscount couldn't defend himself and cried out that he was framed. He really didn't know what was going on, but Ellie knew he had arranged all of this. Although the gem was very light, the moment the maid put it in her pocket, she noticed it. After the maid fell, she went to check on her and conveniently slipped it back in her pocket. Then, when the maid was searching her, she secretly took the gem out. When the Viscount came to search her himself, she slipped it into his pocket. Every move of these two fools was within Ellie's expectations. Trying to frame me? No way. Because of this farce, the Viscount and the maid also met their own tragic end. Ellie couldn't bear to watch, but if she wasn't ruthless, she couldn't protect herself. Her future situation would be even more dangerous. The vassals who had previously mocked Ellie were now somewhat fearful. They knelt down one by one to apologize to the girl. The Duke decided not to pursue the matter for now and formally began today's meeting. He had previously said he wanted Ellie and Damien to marry, but the law forbids marriage between nobles and commoners. So, to elevate Ellie's status, the Duke needed to find a family to adopt Ellie as their daughter. As soon as this was said, Ellie and the vassals were stunned. What noble would adopt a thief's daughter? The girl had been despised since childhood, insulted and bullied by nobles, just because she was the daughter of a lowly thief. Now, she was brought home by the most esteemed duke in the empire to become the fiancée of his adopted son. He even wanted to whitewash her background by letting her choose a noble family to attach her name to, becoming a legitimate noble lady. Just then, a maid urgently reported that Baroness Barmanta's illness had suddenly worsened. The Baron panicked upon hearing this and hastily excused himself to go home. Ellie just found the name somewhat familiar. She remembered. Baron Barmanta owned a small mine in which there was a mineral that was made into a sharp sword. In the original story, Damien used that very sword to win the war. In a region plagued by monsters, weapons were money. Ellie decisively chose Baron Barmanta's family. The Duke gave a friendly reminder. Wanting the Baron to accept her won't work with the little tricks you just played. Ellie was suddenly startled. The Duke saw through her methods against the Viscount. Then why didn't he expose me on the spot? Is it because I helped him find Damien, so I'm useful to him? In that case, the Duke is the only one who recognizes my abilities. Ellie looked determined. I will prove my worth. A few days later, Ellie and Damien went to play in the greenhouse garden together. Damien was immediately attracted by the dandelions. He saw the ground covered in blooming flowers and eagerly called Ellie over. This flower looks just like your hair color. Ellie smiled happily. She pointed to the small blue flowers next to them. Your eyes are this clear blue. Isn't it beautiful? Damien looked at Ellie's innocent smile. Ellie told him she was going to be adopted soon. Damien hurriedly asked, "Then I won't be able to see you anymore?" Ellie comforted him, saying she was just taking a surname and wouldn't be separated from him. Only then did Damien feel relieved. The boy's sweet smile was so charming. Thinking that Damien would start his lessons tomorrow, the two planned to play to their heart's content today. They want to play hide-and-seek together. Happy times are always so short. In the blink of an eye, it was dusk. The two, who had played to their fill, were out of breath. Just as they were about to head back, a strange sound came from the small woods. Suddenly, a huge dark shadow appeared in front of them. The two little ones were so engrossed in playing that they forgot the time to go home. Just then, a strange sound suddenly came from a small woods. If nothing unexpected happens, something unexpected is about to happen. Sure enough, a huge dark shadow flashed by. Ellie tightly shielded Damien, but the danger she imagined did not happen. She only saw a woman slumped on the ground, trembling. She kept muttering, "So scared, so cold." Ellie walked forward and asked her, "Grandma, are you all right?" Judging by her clothes, she didn't look like a servant. Ellie planned to help her back to the greenhouse garden first, but she froze when her hand touched her. Her body was as cold as ice, and her emotions were unstable. Acting rashly would surely lead to trouble. Ellie warmly introduced herself and asked the grandmother her name, but the woman was disoriented and couldn't remember for a long time. Ellie had a sudden realization. Could she have Roman's disease? Patients with this disease slowly lose their memory and eventually become demented, and it's an incurable disease. Ellie put her own scarf on the woman and told her that there was a warm place nearby full of flowers. The woman became interested. Ellie and Damien helped her back to the greenhouse garden. The woman's condition seemed to have improved a lot. She had no memory of why she was in the woods. Just as she was muttering to herself, about to say her name, an anxious voice called out, "Biella, how did you get here? Do you know how long I've been looking for you?" Ellie turned to look. The person who came was actually Baron Barmanta. Then this grandmother must be the Baroness. Biella called out the Baron's name, apologizing for getting lost. Although the Baron blamed her with his words, his tone was very gentle. But the next second, the look in his eyes as he looked at Ellie was one of anger and annoyance. "Although I don't know what you're plotting, please do not take advantage of my wife's illness," he said despicably. Ellie felt wronged. The Baron had misunderstood that she was deliberately approaching his wife. Seeing this, Damien immediately defended Ellie. "Please mind your attitude when you speak to Ellie. A kind person would not treat Ellie so fiercely. Damien's reaction startled Ellie. She quickly recalled the plot from the original story. In the future, the Baron will become Damien's teacher. Damien can't be so rude to his future teacher now. Ellie quickly stopped Damien, telling him not to be so tense. Seeing the young master listen to Ellie so well, the Baron couldn't help but mock her again. This little girl is really good at winning people over, but he wasn't falling for it. I will not adopt you. Please don't approach my wife again. After saying that, he helped his wife up and strode away, leaving Ellie stunned on the spot. She hadn't expected the Baron to dislike her so much. But it didn't matter if he disliked her. It wouldn't do for him to dislike Damien as well. Ellie persuaded Damien not to be wary of everyone. Damien didn't understand. Didn't Ellie say to fight back bravely when others bully you? That person just now bullied Ellie, which is the same as bullying me. Was it wrong to talk back? Seeing the boy's aggrieved look, Ellie couldn't bear to blame him anymore. Damien had just learned to open his heart. She absolutely couldn't go back on her word. She switched to praise mode. Damien, you did very well. Only then did the boy smile happily. Damien just isn't very good at getting along with others. As long as I guide him well, he will surely be able to distinguish between various emotions. Just in case, Ellie still told him, next time this happens, when I stop you, you have to stop obediently. Damien was especially obedient. Ellie thought he was even cuter. Just then, a maid suddenly rushed over, shouting their names. The girl kindly saved a woman with amnesia, but was misunderstood by the woman's husband to have ulterior motives. Even the maid advised Ellie to stay away from the Baroness. After all, if she has a memory lapse, there's no telling what uncontrollable thing she might do. Ellie asked about the cause of the Baroness's illness. It turned out the lady was fine when she was young. But after she gave birth to her son, her health deteriorated. Ellie was a little worried. Is there no cure for this disease? At night, the Baron couldn't help but complain a little. He had clearly arranged so many attendants to follow her. So why did she still wander off on her own? Looking at his sick wife, the Baron began to blame himself again. However much he had looked forward to it during the pregnancy, the days after the child's birth were just as painful. This disease was completely incurable in the Empire. The lady's condition was getting worse and worse, until one time, the Baron found his wife unconscious on the edge of a cliff. He broke down. After all, it was the Baron who had suggested having a child. But this had trapped Biella, who loved freedom more than anyone. Her frequent memory lapses, was it that she wanted to forget everything? Looking at her husband's worried face, Biella tried to comfort him. Luckily, that blonde girl helped me today. She even gave me her scarf and took me to a warm place. Otherwise, I'd still be outside shivering from the cold. She's truly a kind little angel. His wife's heartfelt smile stunned the Baron. How long had it been since she smiled like that? Biella took her husband's hand. She wanted to go see those 2 children with him tomorrow and then apologize to them, okay? Although the Baron felt Ellie's kindness was not genuine, seeing his wife's expectant face, his mood grew heavier. After a moment of silence, he nodded in agreement. Ellie was crazily pinching Damien's little face. The texture was springy and smooth, just like a marshmallow. Seeing Damien's shy look, Ellie took his hand and placed it on her own face. The sudden intimacy made Damien's brain shut down. Just then, the head maid came to announce that Baron Barmanta and his wife had arrived. As soon as the 2 entered, they bowed in greeting. The Baron felt deeply guilty for misunderstanding them and came specially to apologize. This left Ellie somewhat at a loss. Ellie suddenly realized the reason the Baron only started focusing on the mine much later must have been because he was only worried about his wife's health. If she could solve the Baron's worries, then could he make the sword for Damien sooner? Ellie accepted the Baron's apology. At the same time, she made a request. I heard that patients with Roman's disease are easily disoriented, and the louder the surrounding sounds, the more scared they become. So, Lord Baron, please don't be angry with the Baroness anymore. Just because of one sentence from his wife, the man was willing to come and apologize to the girl, even though this girl was someone he greatly disliked. Ellie accepted the apology and at the same time made a request. She wanted to take walks with the Baroness. She had just come to this place, and her only friend was Damien. In the future, Damien would be busy with swordsmanship lessons, so she hoped to become like sisters with the Baroness. Meeting 3 times a week would be enough. Ellie's move was to get the Baron to focus his attention on the mine, to quickly forge the sword Damien would use. But the Baroness was worried she would be a burden when she had an episode. But seeing the girl's sincere request, the Baroness happily agreed. That day, the 2 had afternoon tea together in the greenhouse garden. Ellie recounted her journey to the Duke's castle. Learning about Ellie's past life, the Baroness felt sorry for her. She held Ellie's hand. "You must have had a hard time before." Although Ellie tried her best to act like she didn't care, this gentle concern still moved her. She smiled and said it wasn't hard. The children at the orphanage were all very good, and the evil teachers were all dealt with by the Duke. The Baroness was somewhat surprised. The Duke is not one to meddle in other people's business, but he was the one who rescued Damien from the orphanage. At this point, the Baroness hesitated. It's probably out of guilt. The Baroness told Ellie the story of the Duke. Duke Schweitz and Damien's father, Duke Clyde, met during a great war. From then on, the two became the closest of friends. The war was won, and the Empire successfully ruled over the minority clans with spirit power. But on the day Duke Schweitz returned triumphantly, he brought back a woman. Her name was Yulia, and she was from Minority Clan. Due to a curse, the Schweitz family members suffered from mania for generations, and Yulia could use her spirit power to treat the mania. Later, they married, and their married life was happy and blissful. But using spirit power has a backlash. 3 years later, the Duke had to go to war again. In order to completely remove the Duke's curse, Yulia ultimately lost her life. From then on, Duke Schweitz closed his heart and cut off contact with the outside world. Only his good friend, Duke Clyde, persistently wrote to him. 2 years later, Damien was born. Clyde told Schweitz this good news. The Duke pulled himself together again and opened the closed castle gates. As a result, Duke and Duchess Clyde, on their way to the Duke's castle, were assassinated by the Emperor and both passed away. Now, Ellie finally understood why the Duke felt guilty towards Damien, because he felt that if he hadn't invited their family to come, this would not have happened. Ellie understood that feeling, because she too had lost her closest relatives. Seeing the silent girl, the Baroness thought she had scared her. She stroked Ellie's hair and changed the subject. "Being with you like this reminds me of my son, but he's not young anymore and has been busy handling matters of the mine." Upon hearing mine, Ellie's spirits were instantly lifted. She wanted to ask the Baroness to take her to the mine to have a look. This man's brow was furrowed enough to crush a fly, just because he had dug up anew but didn't know how to process it. He hated himself for being useless. He could neither make his sick mother happy nor gain his father's approval. Just then, the Baron suddenly appeared, asking about his son's project progress. His reaction said it all. The Baron wanted to comfort him, saying it was okay to take it slow. But Jarrett was firm. "I will redouble my efforts. I will not bring you shame." His son's distant attitude stunned the Baron. The words of comfort were swallowed back. He turned and ran into Ellie. The Baron was surprised. Why were his wife and Ellie here? The Baroness knew her husband would be unhappy about her coming to such a dangerous place. She explained that she wanted to come see their son. Just then, Ellie was drawn to a short sword. Seeing it sparkle, Ellie really wanted to touch it. She looked at Jarrett with anticipation. "Can I?" But the man directly refused. "No, the short sword is dangerous." Ellie was instantly disappointed. Her gloomy look made the man feel a bit sorry. "But I can show you something else." The Baron was about to stop him, but was held back by his wife. Jarrett took out a monocle made from a spirit stone and told Ellie to put it on, who knew that Ellie would instantly feel dizzy. It was better only when she closed one eye. The Baroness watched the two interact happily, remarking that if they had a granddaughter, it would probably feel like this. Just then, Ellie saw a pile of blue ore. Jarrett quickly warned her not to touch it, because this special ore becomes extremely hard upon contact with people. After contact, it also adheres to the human body and even excretes a strange substance. Ellie was scared. It's just like the monster Damien saw before. Once you touch it, you can never get it off. Hearing the girl say this, Jarrett suddenly remembered that he seemed to have seen this kind of monster when he was a child. Back then, he was just a young knight. He saw a pile of minerals on the roadside and wanted to touch it, but was told by someone nearby that it was actually a rare species of monster. It deliberately sparkles to attract people's attention. Once you touch it, you can't get it off at all. It can even burrow into the human body. This discovery led to a heated discussion between the Baron and his son. Ellie was very pleased. Her frantic hints were not in vain. They finally discovered that this mine was actually a monster's lair. Next, they had to study how to make weapons from this monster. Ellie was lost in thought when the Baroness came to take her back. Although she hadn't spoken much with her son, she was already very satisfied just to be able to come and see him. The Baroness was very grateful to Ellie. This girl not only helped her, but also provided great help to her husband and son. She was like an angel. Because of the girl's lowly birth, even with the Duke backing her, she was still despised by the nobles. Fortunately, with her own intelligence, She found another way and won the affection of the Baroness. When the butler reported Ellie's situation to the Duke felt that this girl was very clever. Just then, the butler brought the latest sword made by the Baron. The material used was actually a monster disguised as a mineral. The Duke was very satisfied with this result, but the butler said it was all thanks to Miss Ellie. It was an unconscious remark from her that made the Baron realize these ores were actually monsters. This made the Duke fall into deep thought. When he first brought Ellie back, he actually suspected she was the Emperor's spy, with the aim of winning over Damien to make him loyal to the royal family. If the investigation revealed that Ellie was really related to the Emperor, he would definitely not. Why did his mood turn so bad just by thinking of a warning? Just then, a sound came from the room's door. The butler immediately drew his dagger vigilantly and approached the door. But when he opened the door, it was Ellie. That was close. She just wanted to eavesdrop on the development progress and was almost discovered. The Duke asked what was wrong. Ellie held up a bag. I came to bring medicine for the Duke, because I heard from the maids that your grace often has headaches. So I came to bring you medicine for headaches. The butler praised her for being thoughtful. So where did this medicine come from? Ellie stammered. She couldn't possibly say it was what the maid gave her when she was pretending to be sick. Ellie changed the subject. Lord Butler, what are you hiding behind you? The butler quickly threw the dagger away, holding up his hands. There's nothing there. Nothing at all. Ellie was about to hand the medicine to the butler, but the Duke snatched it away. You didn't come to see me just for this, did you? Goodness, you're too sharp. Ellie got straight to the point. She wanted to choose a new family for adoption. The Duke was puzzled. The Baron is about to accept you, yet you want to give up. She thought the Duke would refuse, but who knew he would agree? He even asked Ellie which family she wanted to go to. The Schweitz family. I want you to adopt me. She thought to herself, I'll leave here when I grow up, so just take me in for a while. But the man flatly refused. Don't even think about it. I hate troublesome things the most, especially children. Being rejected so bluntly, Ellie had no choice but to return to her room. Looking at the children's medicine Ellie brought, the Duke found it somewhat amusing. This child actually tried to use children's medicine to treat the headaches caused by the curse. What is she trying to do? Even though he knew this child was very likely the Emperor's spy, why couldn't he help but care about her? As the fiancée of a young noble master, the girl spent her days thinking about how to run away. Ellie calculated the timeline of the plot. There were still 4 years until Damien went to the battlefield. He would bring back the female, leave 5 years after he set out. She had to find a way to survive in these 9 years. Although she was planning to leave, Damien's training still had to continue. That day, Ellie and the Baroness went to the training grounds together to visit Damien. Because Ellie had been a great help with the mine, as a reward, the Baron decided to personally instruct Damien in swordsmanship. However, Ellie was a little worried. Because the Baron had a bad attitude towards her before, Damien held a grudge against the Baron. Just in case, she decided to go and talk to him first. But as soon as she opened the door, she saw Damien slumped on the ground. Ellie rushed over. Are you hurt anywhere, Damien? Ellie held the boy's small face and asked anxiously. I'm not hurt, just a little tired. Hearing this, Ellie finally breathed a sigh of relief. She looked up at the young men who were his training partners. Your training intensity is so high, but Damien is still a child. Could it be that they look down on Damien and are deliberately bullying him? I will come to see you often from now on. You don't want me to come see you? How could that be? Damien instantly turned into a pitiful little kitten acting cute. I'm so tired I could die. But when you're with me, I'm not tired anymore. So you must come see me. The cute appearance of the two little ones made the Baroness laugh out loud. The training partners nearby were moved to tears by the cuteness. Just then, the Baron also arrived at the training grounds. Because Ellie had helped him a lot, his attitude towards the girl was much more polite. He even brought a gift for Ellie. It was a bow and arrow made from the monster ore. It looked very valuable, but compared to a bow and arrow, a sword is more commonly used on the battlefield. You're right, but with our current abilities, we can't make a sword yet. If it were Weiberg, maybe he could. Weiberg is the craftsman of the Duke's city, a master of sword making. But he's an odd person. One of his eyes is already blind, and the other is about to be lost, yet he keeps refusing the doctor's treatment. Ellie was about to ask more, but suddenly realized that if she kept asking, it would seem too deliberate. Anyway, the Baron wouldn't reveal more. She'd better investigate Weiberg's matter herself. Afterward, the Baron and Damien's training began. Ellie was about to leave when Damien followed her. He didn't want to train with the Baron because the Baron's previous attitude towards Ellie was particularly bad. He hates people who are not nice to Ellie. The boy's love for the girl runs deep. He detests anyone who speaks ill of the girl. The boy's pure love moved Ellie greatly, but at the same time, she felt a bit helpless. She comforted Damien. "It's okay. Lord Baron is a trustworthy person. He will give you a lot of help." Damien believed Ellie's words unconditionally. His obedient look made Ellie adore him. But thinking about how her background had implicated the boy and caused him so much grievance, Ellie still felt heartbroken. But as long as Damien can become strong and earn the recognition of the Schweitz family through his own strength, others won't dare to bully him openly. Damien and the Baron were sparring intensely. The butler suddenly arrived at the training grounds. Today was the young master's first day of training, so he naturally had to come and see. Unexpectedly, the young master was handling it quite well. Ellie showed the butler the gift the Baron gave her. It was a bow and arrow made from a newly discovered monster, or she originally wanted to show off the Baron's friendliness towards her, but the butler's reaction was flat, because the butler had also come to give a gift. The bow hidden behind his back was the one Damien had prepared to give to Ellie. He didn't expect the Baron to beat him to it. At this moment, the duel on the field suddenly stopped. It seemed Damien was at a disadvantage. Ellie wanted to go forward and check the situation, but she stepped back to her original spot, because Damien has to grow up eventually. He has to win the family's recognition on his own. The Baron hadn't expected that what started as a simple spar had unconsciously become serious. Although the young master's swordsmanship was terrible, his insight and predictive ability were very sharp. Even though he had already trained with the knights for a long time, he still had the stamina to fight with him until now. He heard that he had fought with monsters when he was a slave. It was those experiences that shaped him. Damien fell to the ground with a thud. Although he was so tired his muscles were cramping, his unyielding eyes still stared fixedly at the Baron. Although your offensive ability is excellent, your sword cannot protect anyone right now. Spurred on by the Baron's words, Damien shakily stood up, his eyes full of fighting spirit, expressing his current resolve. But in the next second, his sword was knocked away by the Baron. "That's enough for today. It's time to rest. You are full of weaknesses right now. You have no chance of winning." Looking at the silent Damien, Ellie clenched her fists worriedly. The concern in the girl's eyes was noticed by the Baron. He now finally understood the reason the Duke brought Ellie back. The boy was soundly defeated in his match with the Baron. He was still too weak now, unable to protect the girl he loved. Ellie was afraid Damien would be discouraged and wanted to go and comfort him. Who knew the boy's gaze would be firm. "I will work hard to learn swordsmanship. I want to become a strong person." Ellie was stunned for a moment, then smiled with relief. It turned out her worries were unnecessary. This boy already had his own goal. Damien said he wanted to become strong, to protect the person who is true to him. Ellie reminded him, "Then you have to eat well and not be a picky eater. Build up your body to be super strong. You could even take on 17 people." That day, the two little ones were walking in the snow. Damien mimicked Ellie, breathing out white puffs of air. So cute. She quickly pinched his cheeks. They were about to walk forward, but the maid behind them stopped them. Because her sense of smell was naturally keen, she smelled a nauseating stench. Then she led the two little ones to a lake with colored water. This place is called the Red Lake. Many people have been attracted by its color and drowned. Moreover, this lake has magical properties, so it cannot be filled in. So, young master, young miss, you must never come to play near here. Did you hear that, Damien? Miss Ellie, you must promise too. Ellie was unconcerned. "I'm not a child." Just then, a sound came from the small wooden house by the lake. With a bang, the door was opened. A man wearing an eye patch, with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, suddenly appeared. Ellie shielded Damien and looked at the man nervously. Just as she was about to ask who he was, the man took a few big gulps from a wine bottle. Just then, the maid greeted the man. "Long time no see. Do you still remember me?" The man glanced at the two children. "I think I told you, it's dangerous to bring children here." The maid was about to explain, but suddenly covered her nose and mouth. She was almost suffocating from the stench coming from a man. "I'm sorry, Mr. Weiberg. We'll leave right away." "Wait, why does the name Weiberg sound so familiar? Isn't he the master swordmaker Lord Baron mentioned?" After returning to the Duke's residence, Ellie eagerly asked the maid, "Is that man the craftsman who makes swords? Did he stop making swords because he went blind?" After the maid's explanation, Ellie finally understood. It turned out Weiberg's daughter had drowned in the Red Lake. But but he didn't become despondent after that. It was after the death of the Duchess Yulia that he picked up the bad habit of drinking. Because Lady Yulia was about the same age as his daughter, she often chatted with him after his daughter's death, helping him out of his gloom. But after Lady Yulia died, Weiberg started drowning his sorrows in alcohol and refused to accept treatment from doctors. As the maid left, she reminded the two little ones never to play near the Red Lake again. But with Ellie's 60 kilograms body having 59 kilograms of defiance, she had no intention of being obedient. "Miss, you must not go play by the lake." "Don't worry, I definitely won't go." But Ellie was not the type to be obedient. That man today is very crucial. She must investigate. The next morning, Ellie appeared alone by the lake. She happened to see a man walking out of the wooden house. This person was the doctor who came to treat Weiberg. Ellie was about to go forward and ask about Weiberg's condition, but was frozen in place by the man's conversation. The doctor was reporting the situation to a viscount. He deceived Weiberg by saying he was treating his eye, but was actually using poison to slowly blind his other eye. This way, Weiberg wouldn't be able to make a sword that could bear the Duke's aura. When Schweitz's military power gradually weakens, everything in the Duke's city will belong to the Kuntel family. The man on the other end of the magic sphere repeatedly instructed the doctor not to let Weiberg see the new or the Baron had discovered. Their conspiracy was all overheard by Ellie, who was hiding behind a tree. They must not be allowed to succeed. The man woke up from a drunken stupor, clutching a wine bottle. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a child squatting by the lake playing. Weiberg immediately rushed forward and pulled Ellie up. "Are you trying to get yourself killed? Do you know how dangerous it is here?" His instinctive reaction made the man lose his temper, who knew the girl wasn't flustered at all. Instead, she greeted him with a bright smile. Weiberg asked her what she was doing here. Ellie held up the bow, an arrow in her hand, to show him off. "This is a gift I received. Isn't it cool?" The man was instantly captivated by the blue arrowhead. He stared at the arrowhead intently. Using the ore to attract the man's attention worked perfectly. Weiberg wanted to study the ore carefully, so he led Ellie into the house. There were toppled wine bottles everywhere. The environment was a filthy mess. Ellie thought about the doctor's group scheme. They wanted to use Weiberg's eyes to bring down the Duke. His condition could not be allowed to worsen. At this moment, a bottle of potion on the table caught Ellie's attention. The color was so strange, it clearly wasn't right. "I'll take it back to investigate first." Weiberg was about to open the window for ventilation, but seeing the girl in deep thought, he turned and lit the stove instead. Ellie started making small talk with him, advising him to drink less alcohol and eat well to stay healthy and welcome a new life ahead. It had been a long time since Weiberg had heard such words. He told Ellie he used to have a daughter, but unfortunately, she drowned in the Red Lake. It was all his fault as a father. He didn't tell his daughter the lake was dangerous, which led to the accident. Just then, the girl interrupted him. "That wasn't your fault." Ellie talked about her own mother. If it weren't for her, her mother might not have chosen to become a thief. Ellie had blamed herself for it too. But whenever that happened, her mother would tell her, "It's not your fault." So if your daughter saw you now, she would definitely want to tell you, "Dad, it's not your fault," because his daughter drowned. The man had been trapped in self-blame, unable to forgive himself, until the girl's words gave this dejected man renewed hope for life. "It's not your fault." Looking at the innocent girl before him, the man remembered that a few years ago, Lady Yulia had said the same thing to him. The two of them were so similar. It was getting dark, and Ellie had to go back. She made a deal with Weiberg. The arrowhead would be left with him to study for one night. He would go find Ellie to return it tomorrow. "No problem. Where do you live?" "The Duke's castle." Before the man could react, Ellie slipped away like the wind. Weiberg thought Ellie was a maid at the Duke's castle. He was preparing to study the material of this arrowhead carefully. Who knew he would get so engrossed that he stayed up all night until dawn? It was a pity he had to return it so soon. He still hadn't figured out this mineral material. Weiberg hadn't been to the Duke's castle in a long time. In his current state, wouldn't it be embarrassing if he ran into the Duke? When he arrived at the gates of the Duke's castle with great trepidation, he was stopped by two guards. Strange attire, holding an arrowhead, he doesn't look like a good person. Just as he was about to fail to explain himself, the Baroness Biela arrived. "Long time no see, Weiberg." In the magnificent drawing room, the Baron, Ellie, and Damien were waiting for Weiberg's arrival. Ellie enthusiastically called out, "Uncle." Weiberg was quite surprised by the situation. Also surprised was the Baron. "Weiberg, why are you here?" Ellie explained, "This uncle is my friend. He's very interested in the arrowhead you gave me. You also make weapons, so I wanted to introduce you to each other to exchange ideas. The two men looked at each other. How could it be such a coincidence? The Baron looked at Ellie with some suspicion. Ellie quickly changed the subject, asking Weiberg how the research on the arrowhead was going. Once the topic shifted to weapons, the two men immediately became engrossed in discussion. Ellie smiled smugly. The plan was proceeding very smoothly. Damien thought Ellie was happy because she was drinking hot cocoa and thoughtfully pushed his own cup towards Ellie. Such a heartwarming boy couldn't be any cuter. The two men were discussing making the ore into a sword. The Baron excitedly invited Weiberg to collaborate, but seeing Weiberg's blind eye, the Baron was very regretful. Your eye condition isn't very optimistic, is it? Are you still refusing treatment? Weiberg was confused. What are you talking about? I've been receiving treatment all along. Dr. D. Allen even gave me a prescription. Just then, Weiberg suddenly felt that something was not right. Today he was busy with research and forgot to take his medicine. But why could he see more clearly than usual? Could there be something wrong with that medicine? Weiberg's expression turned serious. Lord Baron, I have a favor to ask of you. This man says one thing, but means another. He says he hates children the most, but in his heart, he always cares for the girl. Even during meetings, he fiddles with the headache medicine the girl gave him. He brushes off the vassal's reports, his mind full of the girl's innocent smile. The ill-intentioned Viscount Kuntal was preparing to stir up trouble. He presented the Duke with a newly made sword. Monsters are rampant outside now, and Weiberg is going blind and can no longer make swords. He was sure that the Duke, under pressure, would definitely use his family's sword. This way, he could monopolize the weapon manufacturing industry of the Duke City. But the Duke didn't even glance at him. He turned to ask Baron Barmanta. The research and development of the new mineral is progressing very smoothly. Your Grace, as far as I know, you have only produced arrowheads. But knights use swords. Are you planning to hunt with arrowheads? Faced with the Viscount's sarcasm, the Baron could only swallow his anger. The Duke turned to ask the doctor about Weiberg's condition. Kuntal gave the doctor a meaningful look. The doctor replied that he was the same as always, refusing treatment. The Duke pondered for a moment and took the sword from the Viscount's hand. The man carefully examined it, stroking the sharp blade. Just as the Viscount was ecstatic, a series of urgent knocks came from the door. A maid shouted for the doctor, saying that Miss Ellie had used the eye drops he prescribed and was crying out in pain. The doctor was completely baffled. He had never prescribed eye drops for Ellie. Just then, the maid took out a medicine bottle that made him turn pale. Isn't this the medicine he prescribed for Weiberg? This was the poison he made from the water of the Red Lake. It was to make Weiberg's other eye smaller too. How did that medicine end up in that wretched girl's hands? That girl is the next Duchess. If anything happens to her, he's a dead man. The doctor scrambled to check on Ellie's condition. In his panic, he let it slip. This is a poison harmful to the human body. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. A grim-faced Weiberg blocked his path. He said, "This is poison." The doctor was a coward by nature. Seeing that he was exposed, he confessed without being pressed. "I was just following orders. Viscount Kuntal made me do it." The Viscount was stunned by his teammate's betrayal. He frantically tried to deny it and distance himself from the matter. But then, the doctor took out the magic orb they used to communicate and played a recording of their conversation on the spot. The Duke, who had been out of sorts, regained his composure. He stroked the blade of his sword. His eyes, cold as ice, stared at Viscount Kuntal. His pupils turned a bloodthirsty, bright red. Only blood could calm his current frenzy. The man wet himself in fear because a sword was now held to his neck. The Duke, holding the sword, exuded a bloodthirsty aura. Under his curse, he needed to see blood to calm his mania. Seeing the Duke on the verge of losing control, Ontai feared he would go on a killing spree and wanted to step forward to stop him. Just then, Weiberg interrupted the Duke. He presented the fine blade he had forged, feeling a little apprehensive. After all, he hadn't forged anything in 10 years. He hoped the Duke wouldn't find it lacking, but the Duke had long been looking forward to it. He gripped the fine blade. With a single motion, he instantly killed Viscount Kuntal. He ordered Weiberg to complete the prototype for the new weapon as soon as possible. Seeing that the Duke didn't blame him at all, the man immediately declared his resolve. "I will not disappoint you. Ontai was pleased with this outcome. Now that blood had been shed, the Duke's mania would soon subside. However, the man's bloodthirsty aura did not disappear. The Duke handed the sword to Ontai and rushed out. He suddenly pushed open a room's door. Ellie saw the Duke and greeted him with a smile. The man appeared before her in a flash and shook her urgently. "I heard you got a strange medicine in your eye. Does it still hurt?" He noticed the girl's slightly guilty expression. The Duke understood in an instant. This was all Ellie's setup. Ellie also saw from the bloodstains on the Duke that her plan had gone smoothly. Ontai had chased him all the way here. He tried to drag the Duke out, seeing that the girl's green eyes were still bright and full of life. The Duke finally left, relieved. Ontai took out a handkerchief and told the Duke to wipe the blood off himself. His grace was really making him worry. He couldn't help but complain to the Duke. "The young lady is still just a child. She'll be scared if she sees the blood on you." Only then did the man notice the blood on his hands. Just then, a maid came out with a medicine bottle. "You dropped this just now." The Duke took the bottle back, holding it in his hand as if it were a treasure. Then the Duke looked at the handkerchief and asked, "Do other knights usually carry things like this?" "Of course not." The Duke immediately gave an order. "Give one to each of them, so they can wipe themselves clean of bloodstains at any time." He suddenly imagined a scene where Ellie borrowed a handkerchief. The rough fabric scratched the girl's delicate skin. That would not do. They must choose the softest fabric, and it must be embroidered with beautiful flowers. Only a handkerchief like that is worthy of Ellie. Having given his orders, the Duke left coolly, leaving the two men staring at each other in dismay. What's wrong with the Duke? The boy gets jealous at such a young age. His beloved girl just glances at another child, and he becomes flustered and doesn't know what to do. When he hears others praise the girl's beauty, he glares at them. Is Ellie's beauty something you can covet? One day, the two little ones finally came to the market to play. The bustling streets quickly caught their attention. To prepare for being self-sufficient in the future, Ellie took this opportunity to do some market research. She took Damien's hand and reminded him that it was crowded here, so he must not let go. But Damien said pitifully, "Does that mean you won't hold my hand if it's not crowded?" Ellie was powerless against Damien's whining. "If you want, we can hold hands forever." Hearing this answer, Damien was finally at ease. The two of them walked the whole way, hand in hand. They entered stroll and eat mode. Damien accidentally got some sauce on his face. Just then, a guard nearby promptly offered a handkerchief. A burly man and a delicate little handkerchief. The style was a complete mismatch. Ellie thought it was just his personal preference, but she didn't know this was actually a thoughtful arrangement made by the Duke for her. A small bottle caught Ellie's eye. The shopkeeper saw that Ellie was a child and was initially disdainful of serving her. But then he caught the eyes of the large group of people behind the girl. He immediately changed his attitude and became attentive. It turned out to be a healing potion. Although the price was high, its effect was negligible. Ellie had originally thought of giving it to the Duke, but thinking of his expression the last time she gave him medicine, she figured the Duke would definitely look down on this. Just then, the maid said there was a local custom where a child on their first outing should buy something for their family. Ellie hesitated. "Would you like my gift?" Passing by a jewelry stall, Ellie noticed a pair of earrings. They looked just like Damien's eyes. She decided to get them without hesitation. Just then, a family of 3 suddenly squeezed in front of the stall, seemingly browsing the goods. But Ellie saw at a glance that the child was stealing something. Ellie didn't want to meddle, but she planned to do business here in the future. Such a shameful thing absolutely cannot be allowed to happen. Let's present this to the Duke as a gift. So Ellie went forward and grabbed him. A thief must be caught in the act. The adults with him initially tried to explain, saying the child was young and didn't know any better, and that an apology would suffice. But after seeing the guard's fierce glares, the man changed his tune. He began to distance himself from the child, with an attitude of letting him be dealt with however they saw fit, even if it meant being taken as a slave. Now the child panicked. "You were the ones who told me to steal. You said if I did as you said, you'd give my thing back to me and buy me bread." Seeing this, the man pushed the child to the ground. Ellie couldn't watch anymore. These people weren't the child's real parents at all. They were clearly villains using a child to do their dirty work. The man, his identity exposed, became furious and actually raised a hand to Ellie. Everyone quickly helped Ellie up. They glared at the man. He was in for it now. This man had a death wish, to actually assault the young lady of the Duke's household in the street. If looks could kill, he would have died 1,000 times over by now. There was no way he could escape. The child who was pushed down by the man was about to leave. Ellie handed over a green bracelet. Wait, here's this back. It turned out to be an heirloom his parents had left him. After the villain stole it, they coerced the child into stealing for them. Ellie helped him get it back. The child was very moved and swore to repay Ellie one day. Learning that the child and his younger siblings lived in an orphanage, Ellie also bought him a big bag of food. If you ever need my help in the future, I will definitely help you. My name is Grace. Hearing this name, Ellie froze. Could this be the holy knight, Grace, who risked his life to protect the female lead in the original story? But Grace in the novel was a girl. Still, he is indeed very handsome. Seeing Ellie praise his looks, Grace became a little shy. But Damien, standing to the side, looked displeased. What the hell are you blushing for? Over here, the guards caught the runaway villains. The maid, afraid Ellie was hurt, also bought some medicine. It was about time to head back. A guard simply tucked the two little ones under his arms. As they were leaving, Ellie gave the medicine to Grace. She said goodbye to the future female, Holy Knight. I'll be counting on you to look after Damien in the future. In the Duke's office, the Baron and Wybeck had already finished a sharp sword using the new ore. The Duke was quite satisfied. Just then, Ellie and Damien returned. Ellie told the Duke about what she saw on her outing and the gift she bought back, a pair of earrings. Seeing this, the Duke touched his ear, considering where to get it pierced later. Damien, I bought these especially for you. They match your eyes. The Duke's movements froze. He took 10,000 points of damage internally. Damien, a little shyly, took out an emerald necklace. I bought you a gift too. Ellie was overjoyed, marveling at how they were on the same wavelength, completely oblivious to the Duke whose face had darkened at the side. The man silently tightened his grip on his sword hilt. Ontai, afraid he would lose control, quickly stopped the two little ones who were about to leave. Iuchu, didn't you prepare a gift for the Duke? Of course we did. Ellie confidently called for the guards and reported to the Duke that they had just apprehended a group of frequently offending thieves. Ellie explained to the Duke that she didn't know what he liked, so she prepared this surprise. Consider it as easing the Duke's burdens. Everyone present was petrified. The Baron and Wybeck looked at the Duke with a hint of pity. Wasn't it supposed to be a gift? But this was clearly just more work. Why is it so hard to get small gift? Ellie was drying Damien's hair. He was especially happy to go out with Ellie today. What was even more surprising was receiving his first gift from Ellie. But there was also a little disappointment. He didn't like the word cute. He wanted to be handsome, just like the boy they met today. Ellie understood. So Damien was holding a grudge because she praised Grace today. This child is already starting to care about his appearance. Ellie quickly explained, I still like the cute type the most. Besides, you're both cute and handsome. After a long day out, Ellie was a bit tired. Damien asked if her injuries still hurt. Actually, I was pretending. Back at the orphanage, Ellie had told Damien that lying was much better than foolishly enduring. She deliberately pretended to have fallen hard to catch those villains. It's called a white lie. So, Damien, if there's something you really want, it's okay to find a way to fight for it sometimes. Although you can't do anything unethical as long as you want it, you will surely have everything in this world. In the original story, Damien would still be harmed by the supporting characters. But no matter what, I will help you. But Damien only wanted one thing, to be with Ellie forever, to change her tragic fate as cannon fodder. The girl became the boy's guardian to protect his safety and was unexpectedly taken in by her adoptive father, the Duke. She went home to become the boy's young fiancée, but the girl planned to retire after her work was done and regain her freedom. Unexpectedly, under her care, the boy gradually grew attached to her and wanted to be with her forever. Ellie was practicing archery. The Baroness was beside her, praising her repeatedly. The young lady is truly outstanding. Ellie admitted she hadn't expected the Baron to give her such a fine bow and arrow. The lady said Ellie was being too polite. We're all going to be family. What's a small gift between us? Ellie was stunned for a moment, then fell into deep thought, although she also longed for a loving family. Remembering her tragic past of being abandoned multiple times, she knew the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. When they said they wanted to be family with her, it was probably because they felt she had some use to them. Ellie said she would work even harder not to disappoint the Baron's family. But the lady told Ellie that family isn't a relationship built on benefits. Cherishing and loving one another is what's most important. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. It was the first time Ellie had ever heard such warm words. Just then, the Baron's son, Jarrett, happened to arrive. Seeing how much Ellie liked the bow and arrow, he was very pleased. After all, he had specially crafted it for Ellie. He also enthusiastically taught Ellie how to shoot. Then, Ellie asked Jarrett about Uncle Wybeck making the sharp swords. They are indeed being made, but there are several thousand swords to be made, and he's the only one forging them, so the progress is quite slow. Ellie was a little anxious. At this rate, before the swords were finished, Wybeck would collapse from exhaustion first. Lost in thought, Ellie's hand trembled and she shot an arrow astray. She hurried into the woods to retrieve it, but the moment she looked up, she saw crows circling all over the sky. Ellie grew nervous. After all, just looking at them was creepy. To her surprise, one crow landed on the ground and stared intently at Ellie. It was even scarier up close. Ellie hugged the arrow and shivered. She planned to find the right moment to run. But the next moment, the crow actually turned into a man. Talk about outrageous. "Child, are you close with that blacksmith? I heard you're the one who healed his eye." As the man spoke, several more crow people landed. He must be talking about Wybeck. He's so fierce. He couldn't be one of Wybeck's enemies, could he? But the next second, the man stepped forward and took Ellie's hand. "So you are our master's benefactor." Ellie was a bit stunned. She hadn't fully processed the meaning of the man's words, but she noticed that the man had touched the arrowhead made of monster ore and was completely unharmed. Ellie showed a confident smile. She had thought of a great idea. This girl is very flustered right now because she saw with her own eyes a crow turn into a man. But an idea suddenly came to the girl's mind. She felt that these people had appeared at just the right time. They could be a great help to her. Just then, young Master Jarrett rushed over. Seeing the suddenly appeared strange men, he quickly stood in front of Ellie, warning them to stay away from her. The crow people explained they meant no harm to Ellie. They only approached her to repay a debt of gratitude. After all, the only thing they were interested in was powerful sword forging techniques, because their clan's mission is to create the world's most powerful weapons. Ellie remembered reading in a book before. The royal family possesses a sharp sword capable of purging evil forces, which was made by a certain mysterious clan. Could these crow people be from that clan? The crow man said that ever since their clan leader passed away, their weapon-making skills had declined. While they were lost, they happened to see a sword made by Wybeck and were immediately impressed by his skill. From then on, they considered him their master. But unexpectedly, one day, Wybeck gave up sword forging. This pained them greatly. Thankfully, Ellie helped heal his eye, allowing him to forge swords again. So in the eyes of the crow people, Ellie was their benefactor. But Ellie didn't expect that Wybeck didn't know them at all. Calling a master was just their own wishful thinking. Just then, Jarrett interrupted their conversation. "Miss Ellie, can you understand what they're saying?" "What?" Ellie was baffled. Was she the only one who could understand what the crow people were saying? The crow man explained that if a person can communicate with non-human races, it means that person has the bloodline of that clan. Ellie was confused. She was just a minor supporting character. Logically, she shouldn't have this ability. Although the crow people couldn't speak human language, they could thankfully understand it. Ellie brought them to Wybeck's cabin and enthusiastically introduced the crow man to him. "His name is Talum. He wants to become your student and learn sword forging." The crow people immediately gathered around, surrounding Wybeck. Seeing Wybeck's skeptical expression, Talum prepared to show off his skills. He picked up the monster or pile nearby and came to Ellie. "We can make a weapon even better than the arrow in your hand. Crows can turn into humans. Not only can they resist the harm from monster, they also possess superb weapon-making skills." To gain Wybeck's approval and become his students, the crow people forged an arrowhead from the monster at an astonishing speed, and it was even lighter. Wybeck was stunned. To create such a high-quality weapon in such a short time. Jarrett was also shocked. Could they be the mysterious clan that created the holy sword long ago? "That's right, that's us." Wybeck and Jarrett exchanged a look. The same idea occurred to both of them at once. They asked Ellie to ask the crow people if they would be willing to work for them, making weapons. With the help of the crow people, the task of making thousands of weapons would be completed quickly. Ellie was secretly delighted. Perfect. Everything was going according to plan. However, she couldn't just help them solve their problems so easily. The crow man asked Ellie if Wybeck had acknowledged their skills. Ellie gave a mischievous smile. "Of course he does. But there's one last thing." She had the crow people put on an unwilling, uncompromising expression. After all, Ellie was the only one who could communicate with them. If they wanted her help, they have to offer some benefits. In the evening, the Baroness and Jarrett were on their way home. The thought that the sword-forging progress would speed up considerably made Jarrett very happy. He couldn't wait to tell his father the good news. It's all thanks to Miss Ellie. Since she arrived, she has helped them solve so many problems. So he suggested that Ellie receive the Merchant Guild's education. She will surely become an outstanding entrepreneur in the future. It's just a pity that she's still labeled as the daughter of a thief. She will still be treated differently in the future. Jarrett wanted to tell the Baron about Ellie's strange ability, but his mother immediately stopped him. People with this power possess the bloodline of a minority clan, but the minority clans were wiped out in the war. That means only the royal family possesses this power. Jarrett was shocked. The lady said that Ellie's mother had once stolen something from the royal treasury. What if that something wasn't a treasure, but the emperor's child? If the fact that Ellie has special abilities gets out, it could very well lead to a fatal disaster. She told Jarrett he must keep this a secret. Because of what happened during the day, Ellie was too excited, so she successfully stayed up all night. The thought of being able to get involved in business in the future thrilled Ellie. Looking at Damien sleeping soundly in her arms, Ellie couldn't bear to disturb him. She quietly slipped out of bed, wanting to go out for some fresh air. The night air was a bit chilly. Ellie walked into the garden alone, but she unexpectedly found the Duke and Antai there. Just as Ellie was about to approach, she saw Antai suddenly raise a sharp sword and slash at the Duke. Ellie watched, horrified, as the Duke was injured and bled. She was frozen in place by the scene. The most powerful Duke in the Empire was being assassinated by his own adjutant. Seeing this, Ellie rushed forward and demanded to know why Antai was attacking the Duke. Antai didn't expect Ellie to be here and hastily explained they were training. He lied without batting an eye. "Do you take me for a 3-year-old? Ellie spread her arms to shield the Duke, but Antai told her that the Duke behind her was the source of the danger. Ellie slowly turned her head. She saw the Duke exuding a dark, terrifying aura. His blood-red eyes were staring coldly at her. Had the Duke's mania relapsed again? Seeing the wounds all over the Duke's body, it seemed he had to see blood to cure his mania. Ellie tentatively reached out and held the Duke's hand. In a short while, the Duke's condition returned to normal. He asked Ellie if she wasn't afraid. Ellie shook her head. "If you had already lost your mind and were going to kill me, you would have surely hurt others first." Because of the curse, the Duke's wounds healed quickly. He saw Ellie's calm demeanor and wondered if she was already used to such scenes. Ellie then realized that she had just acted too mature for her age. She had to quickly make up an excuse to bluff her way through. The Duke didn't probe further, only telling Ellie it was best to forget what she saw tonight. "What about you, Your Grace? Aren't you going to sleep?" The Duke sighed helplessly. "I always have nightmares and can't sleep well. Do you need me to help you sleep?" The girl's words baffled the Duke. Ellie explained that back at the orphanage, the children wouldn't have nightmares if they held her hand. So she thought that if she stayed by the Duke's side, he wouldn't be troubled by nightmares. Ellie didn't originally have much hope. Unexpectedly, the Duke really took her back to his room. The Duke asked her how she planned to help him sleep. His attitude was very matter-of-fact, like a big cat. Ellie told the Duke to lie down properly, pulling the blanket up to cover him. She said he'd catch a cold with his chest exposed, and that you only get sleepy when your body is warm. The Duke complained verbally, but still let Ellie wrap him up like a dumpling. The Duke asked Ellie, "You're always helping others sleep. Don't you have nightmares yourself?" "I've always slept very well, because real life is more terrifying than any nightmare." Oops, she said something unfitting for her age again. Ellie explained that she meant real life involved a lot of work and eating bad food and absolutely nothing else. Unexpectedly, the Duke suddenly brought up Ellie's mother. "Because every time I see Ellie, the Duke is always reminded of a familiar voice." "May I ask your mother's name?" The man, the most powerful Duke in the Empire, actually needed a little girl to help him sleep. Ellie was about to sing a lullaby when the Duke suddenly asked for her mother's name. Ellie grew nervous. Her mother's identity as a thief had always been a thorn in her side. Despite this, Ellie still told the Duke, "My mother's name is Shenu." The Duke was slightly disappointed. As expected, he had been overthinking it. During their chat, the Duke said he was getting a little sleepy. Ellie was very happy. Her sleep-inducing method really worked. "It must be that my body thinks sleeping is better than chatting with you all day." The Duke's sharp tongue was merciless, yet he apologized to Ellie the very next second. "I'm sorry you had to see that terrible scene today, and for having suspected you all this time." Ellie was a little touched, but she didn't quite understand what the Duke had suspected her of. She was about to ask when she found the Duke had fallen asleep. Ellie boldly poked the Duke's forehead. She tiptoed out of the room. Sweet dreams. Today was the day the priest from the temple came to the orphanage to pray for blessings. Grace always looked forward to this time because the priest would also bring a lot of supplies, which meant the children could all eat a full meal today. Just then, Grace saw a priest with green eyes. Could that be Ellie? Grace ran overexcitedly, only to see a completely unfamiliar face. He quickly apologized, explaining that he had mistaken him for someone else because his friend also has a pair of beautiful green eyes. After hearing Grace's words, the green-eyed priest immediately grabbed his hand and eagerly asked all about Ellie. When the sun set and the priests finished their duties and prepared to return to the temple, Aubrey finally showed his true colors. He disgustedly wiped his hands, utterly repulsed by the earlier contact with the orphans. So filthy. He never thought a child with green eyes would appear in the Chute's territory. This gave him a strong sense of crisis. Just then, a priest across from him noticed Aubrey's eye color was gradually turning orange. Is it because of the sunset? Hearing this, Aubrey instantly panicked. He covered his eyes, explaining that he was probably just too tired today. As soon as he returned to his room, he gulped down a bottle of magic potion, turning his eye color back to green. That was close. I almost got exposed. Just then, his father suddenly contacted him through a magic orb. He asked about his progress. Aubrey was just about to tell him the clue he'd found today about the Duke of Chute's when his father suddenly mentioned that the Duke had found his friend's child. And because of the adopted son, he berated Aubrey for being a useless idiot. Still haven't found a way to get close to the Duke. Otherwise, the position of Duchess would have been his long ago. It turned out his father had always coveted the Duke's status and wealth. He didn't hesitate to send his own daughter to get close to the Duke. Although it was her father's order, Aubrey was more than willing. Because the Duke had once saved her by chance, she fell in love with the man. To get close to the Duke, she used a magic potion to change her appearance, making herself look more like the deceased Duchess. As long as she could stay by the Duke's side forever, she was even willing to marry his adopted son. So now, her primary target is Ellie. She must steal Ellie's position. Although the girl was from an orphanage, she received the Duke's boundless affection. He not only held her personally, but also dotingly fed her delicious food. Just now, Ellie showed off her skills amidst the servants' flattery. She hit the bullseye with one shot and was tossed high in the air by the servants. Miss Ellie is truly amazing. Ellie was very pleased, showing off her unique skill of shooting an arrow while bending over backward. The Duke saw all of this. He put down his official documents and came to the garden. He happened to see a guard carrying Ellie under his arm, about to leave. Ellie greeted the Duke, explaining that she was a little tired and wanted to rest. The Duke pondered for a moment and asked the guard if he had 3 sons. Yes, Your Grace. No wonder you don't know how to hold a child. The Duke took Ellie into his arms, demonstrating the correct way to hold child. The servants were shocked by this scene. The Duke is actually holding a child himself. Just then, Ellie showed off to the Duke. The bow the Baron gave her is super easy to use. But upon hearing this, the Duke felt wronged. Is it only the one someone else gave you that's good? Is the one I gave you not good? To appease the Duke, Ellie quickly said she still liked the one he gave her the most. The Duke immediately beamed, praising her good taste. Then he carried Ellie to the dining room, saying she was too thin and needed to eat more. After a sumptuous lunch, Ellie was stuffed like a ball. To aid digestion, she took the Duke to the training grounds. The Duke thought she wanted to learn swordsmanship. The next second, Damien ran over. He was super excited to see Ellie. He wanted to have lunch with her. Sorry, I've already eaten. Damien was instantly disappointed. Who did you eat with? With the Duke. The Duke at the side felt a strange wave of anger. This kid still sees me as a rival. But you're still too weak right now. Damien felt extremely wronged, thinking Ellie wouldn't eat with him anymore. Ellie patted his head. How could that be? Of course I'll eat with you. Just then, the Duke suddenly leaned in. Then let's all 3 of us eat together from now on. Ellie was very willing. This was a perfect opportunity for Damien and the Duke to improve their relationship. Damien was unwilling, but could only reluctantly accept. When it was time for dinner, both Damien and the Duke couldn't wait to feed Ellie. This is super delicious. Quick, try this, it tastes pretty good, have some. They waited with expectant faces for her review. Having already eaten 10 plates, the pitiful Ellie just wanted to escape. Is it too late to regret this now? Everyone could see that the Duke doted on the girl. Only the girl herself didn't think so. How could that be? He's just teasing me for fun. One day, Ellie was learning to weave knots from the Baroness. The Baroness suggested Ellie weave one to give to the Duke. But Ellie was a little disappointed. The last time I gave him a gift, he didn't seem very happy. He must disdain receiving a gift from me. This knot not only has a special meaning, but it also carries your sincerity. The Duke will definitely like it. Ellie held the knot, feeling very conflicted. Is it really okay that I wove it so ugly? Just then, Ontai saw Ellie and told her the Duke was going out to inspect the territory and wouldn't be back for several days. The Duke instructed Ellie with a blank expression, "Don't cause trouble while I'm gone." Ellie looked indignant. "I won't cause trouble. After all, the Baron, his wife, and Jared are at home." The Duke was a little displeased after hearing this. "You already see them as family." He turned to leave with a sullen face. Ellie quickly took out the knot she had woven. "Your Grace, this is for you. I made it myself. It's not very pretty, but it's said to bring safety. It's okay if you don't like it." Before Ellie could finish, the Duke snatched the knot and quickly put it on. "This knot is so ugly. I'll wear it forever." Ellie was rendered speechless by his mockery. The next second, the Duke's large hand patted her hair. "I was kidding. The knot is very pretty. Thank you." As he left, he also reminded Ellie to take care of herself. Ellie was also very happy. This was the first time the Duke had praised her. A few days later, Ellie and Damien went to see the newly crafted weapons. Wybeck and Talum came to greet them. Talum noticed Damien at a glance and seemed to have a great interest in the boy. He asked Ellie for Damien's age. Upon learning he was only 12, Talum was even more amazed. Just then, Ellie suddenly invited them to go to the market, but Talum, using the excuse of being busy making weapons, declined. Suddenly, he leaned close to Damien, staring at the boy with great interest. Damien felt his skin crawl under his gaze, not knowing what he was up to. Soon, the two little ones arrived at the bustling market. They ate as they strolled around, looking everywhere. Suddenly, Ellie seemed to feel a hostile gaze. This gave Ellie a bad feeling. She pulled Damien, preparing to head back to the carriage first. But suddenly, a rotten, foul smell wafted over. Immediately after, Ellie's hand was grabbed. She was forcibly pulled away from Damien's side. In the dense crowd, Damien frantically called out for Ellie, but the two children were too weak. In a crowded throng, they gradually disappeared from each other's sight. A kidnapping actually happened on the busy street. Watching Ellie being forcibly dragged away, Damien was extremely anxious. Just then, the maid arrived in time and subdued the kidnapper. "Miss, are you all right?" Damien hurried over and asked if Ellie was hurt. Ellie smiled and said she was fine, but she accidentally revealed the wound on her wrist. Damien's heart ached instantly. Just then, the kidnapper suddenly begged for mercy, saying he was just too desperate from missing his daughter. When he saw the little girl with blonde hair and green eyes, he thought she was his long-lost daughter. Everyone present was surprised. Looking at the man who had the same blonde hair and green eyes as her, Ellie could hardly believe it. Could this man really be her father? Then why did he only appear now? Just then, a priest arrived on the scene, looking very familiar with the blonde man. Grace followed closely behind. Both sides were surprised to see Ellie. It turned out this priest was Aubrey. He said that he and Grace had just been in the streets and alleys helping the homeless when this man suddenly said he'd found his daughter and rushed off. Jarrett felt this man was very strange. He didn't produce any evidence and just wanted to take Ellie away. It didn't make sense no matter how you looked at it. Aubrey argued that the man was just desperate to find his daughter and meant no harm. Besides, there was no evidence to deny they were father and daughter. Why do you have to judge this matter? Damien, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up, his face cold as he stared at Aubrey. The person who was hurt is Ellie. Only she can say whether he's at fault or not you. Aubrey tried to explain, but Damien didn't give him a chance. Aren't you a priest? Heal Ellie's wound first. Seeing Damien's imposing manner, Ellie was very relieved. Thanks to Damien, she was able to calm down. She couldn't let her emotions be swayed by the man who had suddenly appeared. She had to use her strengths and think carefully. Just then, Ellie's wound suddenly started to hurt. She wanted Aubrey to use his holy power to heal her. After all, holy power could heal wounds instantly. But Aubrey refused, on the grounds that he couldn't use holy power casually. However, I can use holy water to heal your wound. Ellie was a little disappointed. These priests were so eager when treating other nobles. Why were they treating her differently? Just as the holy water was about to touch Ellie, Damien suddenly swatted the bottle away. He shielded Ellie behind him and questioned Aubrey coldly. Are you really a priest? Why do you reek of a foul stench? His beloved girl was injured, yet the boy deliberately knocked over the healing holy water. It was because he sensed a disgusting, rotten smell coming from the priest and suspected there was something wrong with the holy water. Faced with Damien's questioning, Aubrey broke out in a cold sweat. Did he figure something out? Suddenly, he found the boy's blue eyes very familiar. He abruptly recalled the black market where he bought the magic potion. There was a filthy little boy locked in a cage. Those hostile blue eyes had stared at him just like this. So that test subject who was injected with drugs was actually Duke Clyde's son. No wonder he could sense something was wrong with the holy water. But he has no proof. What would he do to me? Just then, Grace rushed forward and accused Damien of being rude. Priest Aubrey is a benefactor to our orphanage. But only Ellie knew that Damien must have discovered something. But Aubrey was a priest, and the temple was subordinate to the emperor. Ellie was afraid that a conflict with Aubrey would be disadvantageous for Damien. She just didn't understand Aubrey's motive, or what was wrong with that bottle of holy water. Just then, the man started wailing again. His intuition told him that Ellie was his biological daughter. The maid was so angry she was about to hit him. You say Miss Ellie is your daughter? Then tell us your wife's name. Where did you meet? But the man knew nothing. He said his wife never told him her real name. Ellie understood his words. After all, her mother was a master thief. She would never reveal her real name to outsiders. Just then, Aubrey proposed as a representative of the gods. He could confirm their kinship through holy water. By dripping both of their blood into the holy water, he could determine if they were biological father and daughter. To get Ellie to agree to the kinship test, Aubrey began to persuade her frantically. He even brought up the Duke of Shoots, saying the Duke would surely want to see you two reunited. But Ellie instantly caught the loophole in his words. How did this priest know I live in the Duke's castle? They had come in Jarrett's carriage today and hadn't revealed their identities along the way. This priest definitely had an ulterior motive. To figure out the reason, Ellie put on a worried expression. She said that ever since the priest stopped performing the purification ceremony for the Duke's castle, the Duke's illness had worsened. So she begged Aubrey to give her some holy water so that she could repay the Duke's kindness and alleviate his illness. Everyone present was moved by Ellie's filial piety. Ellie looked at Aubrey with expectant eyes. Aubrey gritted his teeth in anger but couldn't lash out. He had originally wanted to control Ellie, but unexpectedly, Ellie had seized the upper hand. The girl just went for a stroll and ran into a man claiming to be her father, and a priest with ill intentions who deliberately approached her. They agreed to hold the kinship test at the Duke's house in 4 days. The maids felt very guilty, thinking it was their negligence that led to Ellie's injury. But how could Ellie blame them? Even though she said it was just an accident, the maids were still filled with guilt. Ellie was a little confused, whether it was the maids or the Baron's family. Everyone here seemed to care about her a lot, but she was just the daughter of a thief who had come to the ducal estate by a twist of fate, taking the place of the original female lead. She would have to leave sooner or later. Why were these people so devoted to her? But now was not the time to be sentimental. She told the head maid about encountering her supposed biological father today. The head maid was very flustered. The Duke and the Baron were not here, so there was no one to make a decision. Plus, the Duke's adoption of Ellie had not been formally documented. Therefore, Ellie was still in a state of having no guardian. When the priest proposed a kinship test, they had no reason to refuse. She sent a message to the Duke and told Ellie to rest well. After everyone else had left, Ellie comforted Damien, who had been silent for a long time, asking if he was scared by what happened today. But Damien suddenly apologized. He blamed himself for the danger Ellie had faced today. He blamed himself for letting go of Ellie's hand at the critical moment. The boy's guilty expression made Ellie's heart ache. She explained again that it was just an accident. She hoped Damien wouldn't blame himself so much. Otherwise, everyone who loved him would be sad. Besides, the one who should be apologizing was Ellie herself. It was her sudden appearance that caused the original plot to deviate. No matter what, she would solve this problem. Ellie asked Damien to help her get some hot cocoa while she secretly wrote a letter. She found it strange. Why would a minor priest know her identity? And how much did the temple, or even the imperial palace, know about her? Rather than wait for doom, it's better to take the initiative. Ellie altered the family crest on the letter's wax seal. Let this letter be the bait. Damien brought the hot cocoa, and the two little ones shared the sweet drink. For days passed in a flash. Looking at the magnificent Shoots ducal estate, Aubrey couldn't hide his excitement and greed. Soon, everything here would be his. End of Season 1. A woman covered her face with a veil. She contacted a priest in the temple through a magic orb, telling them someone had stolen the temple's holy water. At first, they were baffled. Then, the young priest guarding the holy water received a report letter. Only then did they learn that the holy water had really been stolen. The woman told them the thief was with her and to come quickly. After doing all this, Ellie lifted her veil. This welcoming gift should be sincere enough. I wonder if it will be a big surprise for Priest Aubrey. Outside the ducal estate, Aubrey was instructing the blonde man. He told him to lie as before, claiming to be Ellie's father. After it's done, he can have as much money as he wants. It turned out the man's real identity was just a street thug hired by Aubrey to carry out his scheme. Just then, Ellie and Damien arrived at the gate of the ducal estate. Aubrey first asked if Ellie's wound had healed, then he greeted Damien. But Damien completely ignored him. After the pleasantries, everyone went to the reception hall. When Aubrey learned that the Duke was not home, he was visibly taken aback. He was smiling on the outside, but furious on the inside. He had used dark magic to get the real holy water. After all that effort, the Duke wasn't even here. But this wasn't entirely a bad thing. If the Duke wasn't here, it would be even easier to drive Ellie away. Aubrey wandered around the luxurious reception hall without any of the restraint or politeness of a guest. The headmaid couldn't help but complain internally. Why is this priest acting like she's the mistress of the ducal estate? Just then, Aubrey proposed to do the kinship test for Ellie. Ellie looked a little timid. She asked Aubrey to give her a hug to calm her nerves. After a brief hug, Aubrey cut Ellie's arm and let the blood drip into the holy water. The entire bottle of holy water instantly turned red. Next was the blonde man's turn. As long as his blood turned the holy water the same color, it would prove they were biological father and daughter. But Aubrey had already tampered with it. No matter whose blood was dripped in, it would turn the same color. Aubrey could barely contain the triumphant smile on his face. Just as the man's blood was about to drip in, Ellie accidentally knocked over the holy water. The sudden turn of events made Aubrey explode. His scheme was about to succeed, and Ellie had ruined it. Do you know how much effort I put into this? Children are so annoying. Everyone present was shocked to hear this. Seeing everyone staring at him, Aubrey realized his outburst. He said he was just a little emotional. Since the holy water was spilled, they would have to test it another time. Just then, Ellie suddenly mentioned the matter of asking Aubrey to use holy water to cure the Duke. But Aubrey said he didn't bring any extra holy water today. Is that so? But you clearly have another bottle in your robe. Ellie's words instantly put Aubrey on alert. How did she know? Was it because of the hug just now? Just then, Ellie leaned into his ear and whispered a question. I never said I lived in the ducal estate, yet you found your way here directly. How exactly did you know? The vicious priest, in order to usurp the girl's noble status, attempted to create a false scenario to frame the girl. Fortunately, Ellie discovered Aubrey's suspicious behavior in time. The timing of this person's appearance was too coincidental. Most importantly, Damien smelled a rotten stench on him. How could an angelic priest have a rotten stench? The answer is simple. Because this person is not a priest at all. Aubrey didn't expect Ellie to discover the holy water hidden in his robes so quickly. Just as he was thinking of how to bluff his way out, a servant from outside came to report that another priest had arrived. Aubrey had a bad feeling. The arriving priest looked very anxious. We received a report that a priest stole holy water, so we rushed over. As soon as the priest entered, he walked straight to Aubrey and told him to hand over the holy water. Aubrey clutched the holy water in his robes and backed away repeatedly. If he was discovered, he would be finished. He noticed Ellie's probing gaze and immediately turned the blame on her. He had gone through so much to get to this point, and this wretched girl ruined it all. Aubrey grabbed Ellie fiercely. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You vicious little brat. Suddenly, he activated his dark magic, threatening to drag everyone to hell if he couldn't see the Duke of Shoots. Everyone present was stunned by this turn of events. Even the priest was powerless against him. Only Damien rushed forward to shield Ellie. At this moment, Aubrey had become sinister and hideous. You've taken this wretched girl as your new master? Too bad you have no reason to exist now. A powerful surge of dark magic erupted. It was about to strike the two little ones. At this critical moment, a tall figure suddenly appeared and blocked the attack for them. It's the Duke. Aubrey was also subdued and pinned to the ground by the guards. He struggled, trying to defend himself. Antai found a bottle of holy water on him. The priest immediately identified it as the one missing from the temple. Then explained this. What were you trying to do to my child? Questioned by the Duke, the blonde man was extremely nervous. He stammered that Ellie was his long-lost daughter. The Duke sneered. If he were really Ellie's father, why did he just stand by and do nothing while Ellie was being attacked by dark magic? The Duke turned to Ellie. Do you think he's really your father? What I mean is, do you want to go with him? To be honest, Ellie only wanted to stay here. But did she have a choice? I'm just the daughter of a thief. Sometimes I even despise myself. If you want to stay, then stay. After all, blood relation isn't the only thing that makes someone family. The Duke's words left Ellie deeply conflicted. A worthless person like me. Do I really have the right to choose? You do. Damien grabbed Ellie's hand. His incredibly sincere gaze made Ellie pause for a moment. The boy said solemnly to the girl, Ellie, you are not a worthless person. The Duke opened the bottle containing the holy water. He poured it over the blonde man's head. Instantly, the man's appearance changed. The black magic he used for disguise was washed away by the holy water. The man panicked, saying this was all orchestrated by Aubrey. But Aubrey was still being stubborn, claiming she knew nothing. Do you really know nothing, Flugel? Hearing the Duke suddenly say her surname, Aubrey froze. She then noticed that she had been splashed by the holy water remaining on the ground. Her own face had returned to its original appearance. Only now was Aubrey truly afraid. She begged the Duke loudly for mercy, pleading for a chance. But there would be no more chances. She watched as Aubrey was dragged out by the guards. Ellie breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally over. Because of Damien's comfort, Ellie felt much better. But when she saw the Duke, she felt a little guilty. He clearly told me to stay put at home, yet I caused such a huge mess. The Duke, however, took Ellie's injured hand, his eyes filled with heartache as he looked at her. The prolonged mental strain left Ellie exhausted. She suddenly faltered and fell into the Duke's arms, fainting. After an examination, the doctor confirmed that Ellie had suffered from psychological trauma in the past and that she had frequently encountered such situations. This time, she had finally reached her limit. The Duke fell silent. The forbearance and strength this child had shown before were all a result of being forced by reality. I'm such a fool for not even realizing that. The Duke went to the dungeon and harshly interrogated the priest from the temple. The priest confessed that it was due to their negligence that the holy water was stolen, causing such a grave mistake. As compensation, they would fulfill all of the Duke's demands. In that case, the Duke didn't hold back. He told the priest that in 2 days, he would send 2 adoption consent forms to the temple. All they had to do was obediently stamp and approve them. After that, he would send a marriage consent form and let them figure it out. The priests were in a difficult position. Adoption was one thing, but a marriage had to be reported to the royal family. In order not to provoke the Duke, they pretended to agree for the time being. Just then, the Duke suddenly activated his magic. Several fluorescent chains appeared and clasped around the priest's necks. This is a contract. If you break this magical promise, you will surely die. Only then did the priests realize they had fallen into the trap the Duke had dug. The nighttime grassland was silent. Ellie stood there alone. Aren't I in the ducal manor? Am I dreaming? Suddenly, a commotion came from the distance. Catch him. Don't let him run. Just then, Ellie saw a huge figure running in the distance. Is that a monster? Suddenly, the figure noticed Ellie. It stopped abruptly, staring straight at her. Ellie tensed up instantly. At the same time, she found it strange. It was clearly a dream, but why did it feel so real? At that moment, a golden light suddenly emanated from Ellie's body. What's happening to me? The girl was having a strange dream. In the dream, a giant magical beast stared at her motionlessly. After waking up, the feeling was still incredibly real. When Damien saw Ellie wake up, he immediately rushed over and hugged her. Ellie's sudden collapse had given him a big scare. Looking at Damien's worried expression, Ellie took his hand and reassured him that she was fine, that she felt much better after a short nap. But everything that had happened before still left Damien feeling scared. He was afraid he hadn't protected Ellie well, afraid that after fainting, Ellie would never wake up again. His pitiful little expression filled Ellie with infinite affection. Don't leave me alone from now on, okay? How could she refuse such an obedient little puppy? Don't worry, I'll never get hurt again. I'll always be by your side. Just then, the Duke also came to see Ellie and asked about her condition. Seeing the Duke's gentle tone, Ellie felt a bit unaccustomed to it. Did you already discover that priest's true identity beforehand? Not exactly. I only knew he was approaching me with ulterior motives. Then asking for an extra portion of holy water was also your plan. Ellie didn't expect the Duke to figure it out so quickly, because after Lady Julia left, the Duke's mania could only be purified by holy water. So she wanted to do something for the Duke. But now it seems I was too naive. I'm sorry. I won't cause this kind of trouble again in the future. You don't need to apologize. The Duke didn't think Ellie had done anything wrong. If anything, it was he who shouldn't have let Ellie see him during a manic episode, causing Ellie to worry about him constantly. Then, can I still stay here? Looking at Ellie's pitiful little face, the Duke stroked her hair. Didn't you say before that you wanted to be my daughter? Were you thinking of running off to now? Although the man was not good at expressing himself, his words made Ellie feel incredibly warm. A warm current surged through Ellie's heart. She and Damien could live here carefree, like children, inside the grand hall of the imperial palace. The emperor listened with utter boredom as the ministers discussed matters. These peaceful days felt dull and tedious to him. He missed the feeling of personally wielding a sword and killing people. It had been 15 years since the war ended. Although he had ascended to the throne, he had failed to obtain the woman he desired most. To this day, he felt it was an immense pity. That's all for today's meeting. At that moment, a minister suddenly had something to report. Count Flugel wishes to see your majesty. This was Aubrey's father. The moment the emperor saw the man, he was furious. This idiot actually instructed his own daughter to deceive Duke Schutz under the banner of the temple. Count Flugel was also the emperor's confidant. Once this matter was exposed, everyone would assume the emperor had ordered him to do it. The emperor was contemplating how to distance himself from him. The empress suddenly arrived at the grand hall. Your Majesty, why are you so angry? What happened? This is not something you should be concerned with. The empress paid no mind to the emperor's coldness, walking to his side and taking his arm to soothe him. Count Flugel, wasn't it said that Duke Clyde's son has been found? At the mention of the Clyde family, the empress put on a look of deep sorrow, as if she truly regretted the Duke and Duchess's accidental death. The emperor was utterly speechless. This woman was too shrewd. If it weren't for the fact that everyone was well aware of the cause of the Duke's death, he might have actually believed the empress was heartbroken for the ducal family. But shouldn't the royal family help that child continue his family line? Hearing this, the emperor became anxious. Are you suggesting we let that child inherit the entire merchant guild? But the empress's idea was to select a marriage partner for the child. As long as we have him marry someone arranged by the emperor, then even if he inherits the merchant guild, won't everything still be in the emperor's hands? The emperor's face lit up with a smile after hearing this, as expected of the empress. Your thinking is so thorough. The emperor's praise made the woman ecstatic, even though she knew he was just playing along with her. She was determined to keep him firmly in her grasp. Early in the morning, Ellie woke up in her bed, but the unfamiliar maids beside her made her pause. The new maids explained that the previous maids suddenly had matters to attend to, so they would be serving Ellie temporarily. Looking at the empty space on the bed beside her, Ellie suddenly felt a bit sad. She was used to everyone being together. Suddenly being alone felt so strange. Ellie made an excuse to go to the washroom. In reality, she secretly went to the dungeon. The moment Ellie entered, she was hit by a pungent stench. She saw Aubrey, covered in wounds, lying on the ground. After the backlash from the black magic, she was now on the verge of death. Seeing Ellie approach, she struggled to lift her head. Little beauty, are you here to see me? Ellie asked bluntly. Who knows about Damien's existence? How much does that person know? Aubrey laughed. Don't you want to know who I am? There's no need. I already know you're from the Flugel family. It turned out that in the original novel, Aubrey was a character who appeared alongside the original female lead, Isabel. She did many wicked things and used unscrupulous means to marry Duke Schutz. Was the Emperor involved in this? Seeing that her days were numbered, Aubrey confessed everything. It turns out the Emperor didn't know about this. It was all my father's secret machinations. I dedicated my entire life to entering the ducal manor, so I'm happy to end my life here. Suddenly, Aubrey reached her hand out towards Ellie through the cell door. She looked into Ellie's eyes and muttered, no wonder that person was always so regretful. This color is indeed beautiful no matter how you look at it. After saying that, she collapsed to the ground. The girl had only scraped her hand, but the Duke was heartbroken, carrying her wherever they went. He was afraid that taking even a few steps would worsen her wound. Is this really necessary, Your Grace? The Duke remained completely unmoved. He even took the opportunity to poke the girl's cheek. The texture was nice. He couldn't stop. Ellie recalled what Aubrey had said. The Emperor probably still didn't know her true identity. But now that the temple was also involved, her identity would be exposed sooner or later. It seems I need to hurry up and raise funds to prepare. Just then, the Duke arrived at the dining room, carrying Ellie. They saw the Baron and his son waiting there. Ellie was greeting them enthusiastically. Unexpectedly, the two of them dropped to their knees with a thud, apologizing to the girl in unison that we're sorry, Miss Ellie. It's all our fault. Ellie then realized they were apologizing to her for the incident with Aubrey. After all, it was Garrett who had taken her to the market where she encountered Aubrey. But you didn't know this would happen. It's all right. Please get up. But the Duke wouldn't allow Ellie to let them off so easily. You are about to become a member of the ducal household. As vassals, they failed to protect you, so they deserve to be punished. Hang Garrett's head outside the city walls. What? Ellie couldn't believe her ears. She hurriedly tugged on the Duke's clothes and shouted to stop him. How can you take their lives over such a small matter? Looking at Ellie's pleading eyes, the Duke showed no sign of backing down. This time, Ellie got angry. If you don't agree, I won't eat. Saying this, she struggled to get out of the Duke's arms. Seeing that Ellie was truly angry, the Duke had no choice but to agree to spare the Baron and his son. Miss Ellie, thank you so much. Then, could you also release my maids? Ellie now understood the real reason the maids had disappeared. They must have been implicated and punished as well. But Ellie couldn't bear to part with them. Spending every day together had made Ellie grow fond of them. The thought of not seeing them anymore made Ellie extremely upset. Seeing the girl's tears, the Duke's heart instantly softened. He promised Ellie he would release the maids as well. Oh, please don't cry, all right. Just then, Damien finished his training and also rushed to the dining room. As soon as Ellie saw him, she affectionately patted his head. Once everyone was gathered, the Duke began to speak about today's official business. Soon, Ellie will officially become the adopted daughter of Baron Amanda's family. Once the adoption procedures are complete, we must immediately prepare for Ellie and Damien's wedding. The royal family has already heard rumors. To prevent any mishaps, they must get married quickly. The Duke warned the Baron with a displeased look, "You are only Ellie's family in name." After they get married, Ellie will continue to live in the ducal manor. This is her only true home. The thought that he would soon become real family with Ellie made Damien unable to suppress the smile on his face. He was finally going to see this day. After the temple sent over the adoption consent form, Ellie, as the adopted daughter, paid a formal visit to the Baron's residence with Damien. "Baron and Big Brother, I'll be in your care from now on." Unfortunately, the Baroness happened to be unwell that day and was resting. Ellie was a little disappointed to hear she couldn't meet her. After some small talk, it was getting late, and the two little ones prepared to return to the ducal manor. Just then, Ellie made a request. The carriage they rode in had been stained with a lot of hard-to-remove mud. Before Ellie could finish, Garrett told her it had already been cleaned. It's hard to clean with a normal cloth, but it's very easy with this. Ellie looked at the strange object in Garrett's hand. It was tree bark. On her first visit to the Baron's residence as an adopted daughter, Ellie saw a magical item. A tree bark with super strong cleaning power. This bark came from the regal tree. As soon as it touches water, its absorbency increases exponentially, so its stain-removing ability is exceptionally good. Ellie felt as if she had discovered a new continent. This is too amazing. The regal tree was originally a gift from Damien's father, Duke Clyde, to Duke Schutz. The Duke then bestowed a portion of it to the Baron, which is how Garrett discovered this wonderful use. Garrett asked Ellie to keep it a secret. If the Duke knew he was using it like this, he would definitely be angry. Ellie agreed. At the same time, she asked Garrett to give her some of the bark. If she could research and develop it properly, she might be able to achieve financial freedom very soon. When it was time to leave, the Baron and his son came to see them off. Goodbye then, Big Brother and Baron. No, since we're all family now, calling him Baron is too distant. I should change how I address him. I'll just call him based on his age. Then we'll see you next time, Grandpa. The Baron's mouth twitched. Something seemed off. How did he suddenly jump a generation? When Ellie returned home, she felt exhausted that I was only out for a little while. Why am I so tired? Meanwhile, Damien still had to go to training. Such enviable stamina. Just as she was about to rest, someone arrived. It was the head maid and the other maids. They were back. Miss, thank you for specially asking the Duke to let us return. We can never repay your great kindness. But Ellie felt extremely guilty. She didn't feel she had done them a great favor. On the contrary, she felt terrible for having hidden her identity and deceiving them. Actually, you all heard it that day. I am the daughter of a thief. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would hate me if you knew. But I don't want to deceive everyone anymore. I really like it here, and I like all of you very much. But Ellie also knew clearly that because of her thief mother's actions, for the ducal manor to take her in was equivalent to opposing the royal family. How could she force everyone to accept her? Miss Ellie, actually, we've known for a long time. On the first day you came here, the Duke told us. The maids didn't want to burden Ellie, so they all pretended not to know. As members of the ducal household, protecting you is our duty. We will stay by your side, just like before, until you completely open your heart to us. Ellie was so moved by these words that she burst into tears. So everyone hadn't despised her because of her identity. Compared to her past experiences of being abandoned 3 times, she had now truly found a warm home. One day, the 2 little ones were playing in the greenhouse garden. Damien carefully wove a flower crown and gave it to Ellie. Damien, do I look pretty? MHM. Ellie, you look especially pretty. They were playing happily until a strange figure suddenly appeared. Young master, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Vientia Salome. If you don't mind, may I make a flower crown with you? A strange young girl suddenly appeared in the ducal manor and presumptuously asked to play with Damien. This left Ellie and Damien bewildered. The girl's name was Vientia. She was a collateral relative of the Duke Clyde family. Since she was Damien's relative, Ellie felt it was not right to refuse her request. But Damien's face clearly showed his reluctance. But Ellie was thinking further ahead. If the Clyde family's vassals found fault with them over this matter, it wouldn't be good for Damien. There was no need to cause conflict over such a small thing. For Ellie's sake, Damien reluctantly nodded. Ellie wanted to invite Vientia to make flower crowns together, but the girl completely ignored her and sidled up to Damien to curry favor. Young master, this greenhouse is so beautiful. Could you tell me about the flowers here? Damien refused, saying he wasn't familiar with them either. Vientia continued to pester Damien. Ellie kindly offered to introduce them, but was rejected. And no, I just want the young master to introduce them to me. I don't need you, a playmate attendant. Attendant? Good grief, I become an attendant. So she was deliberately ignoring me just now, wasn't she? Ellie felt helpless and had to introduce herself. I am Ellie, the newly adopted daughter of Baron Amanda's family. Upon learning this, Vientia hurriedly apologized to Ellie, claiming she had just misunderstood. Vientia wandered around the greenhouse garden. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. A patch of vibrant roses caught her eye. She eagerly ran towards them, completely ignoring Ellie's kind reminder to be careful. Sure enough, she tripped and fell flat on her face. The delicate young lady instantly burst into tears. Tea hurts so much. It's killing me. Damien, annoyed by her wailing, suggested taking her to the doctor. But Vientia said her leg hurt too much and she couldn't walk at all. She needed him to support her. Helpless, Ellie supported Vientia. Vientia's face immediately lit up with a smile. Thank you so much, Miss Ellie. A sudden cry of Miss Vientia was heard. A woman was seen pulling Vientia into her arms, asking with concern, "What happened to you? What on earth happened? And who are these 2? Wet nurse, don't be like that. They were just playing with me. I got hurt because I was running around carelessly." Ellie found the wet nurse's attitude very strange. We are the hosts, yet she's so wary of us. The wet nurse was relentless and arrogant. This matter can't be let go so easily. You, a mere playmate attendant, just stood by and watched our young lady fall. I must report this to the Duke and have you taught a good lesson. Who are you going to teach a lesson? Everyone was surprised by the Duke's sudden arrival. The man questioned her with a cold expression that you're going to teach my children a lesson in my own manner. The woman who had been so arrogant a second ago was now on her knees, kowtowing and begging for forgiveness, just because she, a mere servant, had dared to scold the Duke's children and was caught in the act by the Duke. Your Grace, please spare me. The ones you should be asking for forgiveness are not me. After hearing this, The woman quickly knelt and begged Ellie and Damien, "I'm sorry. I have offended you. Please forgive me." Just then, a man hurried over. It was Vientia's father, Viscount Salome. He immediately scolded Vientia for being so careless as to fall in the Duke's garden. Vientia explained pitifully, "I just thought the red roses would suit the Duke very well." As she spoke, she used magic to present the rose she had picked. "I heard that the late Duchess was very fond of red roses, so I wanted to pick some for His Grace myself." Vientia had a pitiful expression, completely oblivious to the Duke's gradually freezing face. "It's all my fault. Please don't blame my wet nurse. Please spare her." The girl knelt and begged Ellie. Her pitiful appearance evoked sympathy from everyone. Ellie watched Vientia's performance with cold eyes, sneering inwardly. "She's making it seem like we're the culprits, forcing them to their deaths. If we continue to be relentless now, this incident will surely become a weapon for others to attack Damien. I can't let them succeed." Ellie went to Vientia's side and gently comforted her. "Please don't cry. I should be the one apologizing. I'm truly sorry that I couldn't pick the rose for you." Ellie's words stunned Vientia. "This wasn't going as planned. You mistook me for a playmate attended earlier, but I really don't blame you. After all, it's normal to have misunderstandings when you don't know the situation. It's my fault. I wasn't considerate enough." Ellie's words were incredibly earnest, her tone utterly sincere, leaving Vientia struggling to respond. Ellie held Vientia's hand. "Next time, let's pick the roses from a higher spot. You're so skilled with magic. You should be able to pick them easily. You must have fallen today because you were excited and forgot to use your magic, right? Don't worry, I will take good care of you." Vientia didn't expect Ellie to see through her deliberate fall and could only laugh awkwardly. The wet nurse saw that Ellie was not easy to deal with and quickly took Vientia away under the pretext of treating her injury. Inside the room, Viscount Salome was furious. He was very dissatisfied with Vientia's performance today. Her acting was so clumsy that anyone could tell she fell on purpose. The wet nurse tried to calm the Viscount down, but was slapped across the face. "And you, get out of my sight." Vientiia sobbed quietly. Today she was insulted by that lowly orphan and scolded by her father. She had never been wronged like this. The Viscount sighed helplessly. He told Vientiia that as a collateral branch of the Duke Clyde family, they had always lived in the Duke's shadow. They had finally waited for the Duke to die, thinking they could turn their fortunes around, only to have all the assets seized by Duke Schutz. A little grievance now is nothing, because this is a golden opportunity. That lowly orphan stole your position, so you must get it back. This is also the mission given to you by His Majesty the Emperor. If you succeed, our Salome family will achieve supreme glory. Vientiia was immersed in the grand picture her father painted for her. That's right, that should have been my place. I must take back the position that belongs to me. This father and daughter were living in a ridiculous daydream. One dreamed of becoming the future Duchess. The other schemed to seize the Merchant Guild's assets. To this end, Viscount Salome even invited the highest authority of the Merchant Guild, who was also the late Duke Clyde's mentor, Huber. The Viscount tried to negotiate to get Duke Schutz to agree to let Damien return to the Clyde ducal manor, wanting to get a hold of the ducal heir. Meanwhile, Vientiia followed her father's arrangement to get close to Damien. "What a coincidence to see you here, young master." But Damien showed no reaction, walking straight past her. Vientiia couldn't believe she was just ignored like that. She reached out and grabbed his arm. "Young master, why did you ignore me just now? That's so mean." "I'm sorry, who are you?" Damien's cold tone made Vientiia quite embarrassed. "It's me, Vientiia. We met in the greenhouse last week." Damien remembered. "It seemed there was such a person. Young master, I came specially to apologize this time, and I also want to get closer to you." Saying this, she took Damien's hand, but Damien shook it off that "don't touch me" casually. Just then, the head maid delivered a note. It was from Ellie, who had gone out on an errand, reminding Damien to train well and that she would be back soon. Damien smiled after reading it and headed straight back to the training grounds, ignoring Vientia's attempts to stop him. Although he had been training for most of the day, if it was something Ellie wanted him to do, he would definitely complete it. This was tough on his sparring partners. They were truly exhausted. No one noticed Vientiia standing to the side. The feeling of being ignored drove her mad with anger. It's all that playmate's fault. I will not let her get away with this. Ellie was here today to ask Talim about weapon development, but he was being mysteriously secretive about it. Also, the research on the regal tree bark was finished. How should she promote the bark? She had to be careful. Just as Ellie was planning her business blueprint, a sound suddenly came from the nearby woods. Immediately after, Ellie was attacked and fell to the ground, her ankle injured. Vientia suddenly appeared. She used magic to lift a large rock and hurled it violently at Ellie. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, I would be the daughter-in-law of the Schutz ducal manor. Fortunately, Ellie rolled aside just in time to dodge. She looked at Vientia with cold eyes and asked her what kind of fit she was throwing. But Vientia wasn't listening. Her only thought was for Ellie to die. She used her magic to drive water from the lake over her own head, trying to create the illusion that she had fallen into the water. I'll tell my father that you pushed me into the valley out of jealousy, but ended up slipping and drowning yourself. Vientia gloated over her brilliant plan. Ellie was so dumbfounded by her stupidity that she rolled her eyes. Don't your eyes hurt? Vientia hadn't reacted yet when she felt a sharp pain in her eyes. She howled and cursed. You damn girl, what did you do? Ellie was speechless. What does it have to do with me? This water hurts when it gets in your eyes. Didn't you bring this on yourself? Vientia, enraged, threw a fit, cursing Ellie as a lowly orphan who had stolen her life. Is being an orphan so lowly? Isn't it? My father said it's lowly things like you that defile the empire. You should all just die. Talim. At Ellie's call, a large number of crows quickly gathered in the sky above the forest. The eerie atmosphere frightened Vientia. Ellie walked up to her, looking down at her. You shouldn't have provoked me, Vientia. The scheming girl, in her bid to replace Ellie's noble status, actually tried to fake a scene to murder Ellie. However, being all talk and no action, she was a complete coward. Ellie had only summoned a sky full of crows, and Vientia fainted from fright. This left Ellie speechless. The fight hasn't even started. How is she already down? In the meeting room of the ducal manor, Viscount Salome looked at Mr. Huber, who was calmly sipping his tea. To get the Clyde family's assets, he had to bring Damien back. He wondered what this Mr. Huber was thinking and whether he would help him. Just then, Duke Schutz arrived. As soon as he sat down, Viscount Salome was about to speak. But unexpectedly, the main subject of the meeting, Damien, also came to the meeting room. He bowed politely and introduced himself. Then he sat down straight in his seat, ignoring everyone, as if everything around him had nothing to do with him. The Duke couldn't help but mutter, "This kid is a completely different person when Ellie's not around." Viscount Salome thanked the Duke for taking care of Damien, but the Duke retorted, "No need. As his guardian, isn't this a matter of course? Just say what you want to say." Viscount Salome stopped beating around the bush and directly proposed to take Damien back to the Clyde family. He also wanted to arrange a marriage for Damien with a young lady from a collateral family. What nonsense are you talking about? The Duke cut him off without mercy. You don't care at all about how this child lived before, nor have you asked what he has been through. And now you claim to be acting for his own good. If that's not nonsense, what is? Viscount Salome was not to be outdone. If you don't agree, we will have to take drastic measures. After all, Duke Clyde only left the merchant guild to you, not to young Master Damien. This sentence infuriated the Duke. What gives you the right to be so insolent? Just then, the headmaid suddenly burst into the meeting room. Your Grace, it's terrible. Miss Ellie and Miss Salome are both injured. Damien reacted instantly. He was the first to rush to Ellie's side. Are you hurt? Where are you hurt? Does it hurt? I'm fine, Damien. At that moment, Viscount Salome was asking Vientia with concern. Ellie watched this scene, speechless. I'm the one who's hurt. What is she doing acting all frail over there? Vientia threw herself into her father's arms, wailing as if she had suffered a great injustice. And Viscount Salome used this opportunity to accuse Ellie of constantly bullying his daughter. Vientia also cooperated with her father, putting on a great performance, establishing herself as an innocent victim bullied by Ellie. Ellie was furious. This was very disadvantageous for them. Just then, the Duke stood up. Since you questioned me first, let me ask you, what exactly did you do to my child? Seeing the Duke arguing forcefully on her behalf, Ellie was stunned. Did he just say I was his child? Seeing his beloved treasure being bullied, the Duke immediately stood up to defend Ellie. But the green tea girl, with her father backing her, falsely accused Ellie of pushing her into the lake. The uninformed crowd, seeing the red water stains on Vientia's clothes, all believed her words, cursing Ellie for her cruel methods. Viscount Salome seized the opportunity to demand that the Duke punish Ellie severely. Even if you behead her right now, it wouldn't satisfy my anger. But the next second, Damien splashed a cup of water on him. Young master, what are you doing? I splashed water on you, and your clothes only have some water stains. Your daughter said she fell into the lake, so how come her clothes look the same as yours? Viscount Salome argued that it was because too much time had passed and the clothes had dried. Then why is it that someone who fell into a lake only has red marks on the upper half of her clothes? When Ellie said this, the crowd also noticed something strange. It feels like Miss Vientia is lying. She's so bold, daring to twist black and white in front of the Duke. Mr. Huber, who had been listening on the side, also frowned slightly. Faced with everyone's accusations, Vientia, who had been so confident just a moment ago, instantly panicked. She had a mental breakdown and spoke without thinking. Father said the position beside the young master is mine, but the young master is always captivated by that girl and ignores me. So I want to teach her a lesson. Viscount Salome couldn't cover her mouth in time. The Duke's face turned completely grim, his eyes as cold as ice. The pressure was so low it felt like he was about to tear the father and daughter apart in the next second. This interlude caused Viscount Salome's plan to fail. The disgraced father and daughter duo scurried out of the ducal manor. After everyone had left, the Duke checked Ellie's injured ankle, his heart aching. How do you manage to get hurt every day? How much more do we have to worry before you're satisfied? Damien was also particularly sad. Didn't you promise me you wouldn't get hurt again? Seeing his worried expression, Ellie felt deeply apologetic. She quickly admitted her mistake to the two of them, repeatedly promising this was the last time and that she would be careful in the future. But the Duke and Damien no longer believed her. Seeing that Ellie was genuinely sad, the Duke quickly comforted her, but I don't mean to blame you. I'm just worried because things like what just happened will happen many more times in the future. After everyone finds out about your background, your path ahead will be even more difficult. Ellie knew the Duke was right. Then the Duke and Damien would also have a harder time because of her. But it's okay. I will always protect you. You just need to believe in me. Don't do dangerous things to prove yourself. Leave the adult matters to me. All you need to do is play to your heart's content. Look forward to a beautiful tomorrow and sleep soundly. That's what children should be doing. Ellie never expected the Duke would go to such lengths for her. Even knowing her background, the Duke chose to accept and take care of her. Is this what it feels like to have a father? Ellie looked at Damien. This boy, who used to be indifferent to everything, who had severed his emotions, was now considerate of her in every way. Ellie didn't want to let down this sincere heart. She gently caressed Damien's face. Damien, I will be the one who stand by your side. I will also become your strong support so that no one can ever hurt you. So let's get married. The girl he loved suddenly proposing to him left Damien momentarily stunned. He blushed and confirmed with Ellie again. Are you saying we'll become husband and wife? Yes. You don't want to? No. Damien quickly denied. The sudden feeling of happiness made his face flush red to the tips of his ears. He held Ellie's hand tightly. He said, word by word, I do. The Duke was impressed by Damien's skill in pleasing Ellie. You're really good at this. I think that person would be happy too. Ellie was puzzled. Who is that person? Just then, a man pushed the door open. It is an honor to see you all again. I'm Helen Huber. From now on, I will be responsible for assisting the two of you. Ellie remembered. In the original novel, after Duke Clyde's death, it was thanks to this man, Helen Huber, that the Merchant Guild was able to continue operating. Therefore, when it came to determining Damien's qualifications, he was more serious than anyone. For this, Damien underwent extremely harsh tests. It wasn't until Damien went to the battlefield at the age of 15 that Helen Huber finally acknowledged him. In other words, Huber's appearance now meant that her and Damien's marriage would face a test. Ellie couldn't help but wail inwardly. I just proposed, and the test is already here. This one isn't as easy to deal with as Vientia, but since the Duke let him come, it means he won't harm us. Helen Huber, as the most central figure in the Clyde family. If I can make him an ally, he will not only be a great help to Damien, but will also become my strong support. Thinking of this, Ellie bowed. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. My name is Ellie. I'll be in your care from now on. The next day, Ellie came to class as scheduled, but she found a room filled with toys and all sorts of sweets and pastries. Ellie was a little confused. What did Mr. Huber want by asking her to come here alone? Ellie picked up a basket of candy from the floor. She tasted the delicious candy. "Good afternoon, Miss Ellie. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." After the pleasantries, Ellie looked at the serious Huber and felt a little nervous. What on earth did he want to say? "Before we begin our lesson, could you give me a piece of candy?" This absurd request caught Ellie off guard. Ellie was about to get the candy when she suddenly realized Huber's request couldn't be that simple. "I can't let my guard down. From a lowly orphan, I've leaped to become the future Duchess. He must be worried that I'll become arrogant, conceited, or calculating. There are so many desserts, yet he specifically chose the most inconspicuous candy. This must also be part of the test." Ellie offered a pudding that I think you should have this instead. It's sweet and soft. It seems very suitable for you. Ellie responded kindly, yet politely, "I'm getting old, and my teeth aren't what they used to be. Thank you for being so thoughtful." "You're welcome, Miss Ellie. Actually, I really like this candy and want to eat it all by myself." Showing a bit of a child's frankness should make him lower his guard. Huber glanced at Ellie and smiled, thanking her. The two of them enjoyed their respective desserts in this strangely quiet atmosphere. The girl had just proposed a moment ago, and the next, an old man popped up to test her. He met with Ellie alone under the pretext of a lesson, but in reality, he had another purpose. Huber wanted Ellie to spare the Salome family, because every generation of the Salome family possessed a powerful telekinetic ability that could keep the flow of the merchant guild's goods smooth. If the Salome family were to be sentenced to death, the guild's operations would be greatly affected without their help. Ellie knew Huber had a point. He didn't dare to ask the Duke to be lenient, so he came to ask her for a favor instead. That way, the Duke might show mercy. Ellie considered how to respond to satisfy Huber, but her silence made Huber a little dissatisfied. She was hesitating for too long. From what happened before, he could see this child was quick-witted and decisive, but now she was wavering over such a small request. "It seems I misjudged her after all." Huber took out a document and handed it to Ellie. "If you agree to forgive them, please sign it. I'm begging you." Ellie said nothing more and signed her name on the document. Huber sighed helplessly. As expected, she's still a child. With his goal achieved, Huber got up to leave. But Ellie asked expectantly, "When is our next lesson?" She was very much looking forward to their next meeting. Looking at Ellie's innocent appearance, Huber felt it was a bit of a pity. Although this child was very smart and cute, the test was already over. The Duke was somewhat surprised to hear that Ellie had signed. This child doesn't seem like a thoughtless person, but she did sign it voluntarily. "Now, please honor your promise." It turned out this was all a bet between the Duke and Huber. They had agreed that if Ellie signed this fake document, the Duke would have to forgive the Salome family. At the time, the Duke was full of confidence, firmly believing that Ellie would not sign so rashly. But with things as they were, Huber felt he had already won. But the Duke looked at the signature on the document and laughed out loud. Ellie had not disappointed him after all. "Huber, it seems you've lost to Ellie. How is that possible?" Huber looked at the signature on the document. It was indeed Ellie's name. "Look closely." She signed Clyde after it. It turned out that imperial law required one to add the family head's name after their signature. So, Ellie only needed to sign Eliamanta. But Ellie had now added Clyde as a suffix. If Huber accepted this document, it would mean that Huber acknowledged her as Damien's wife and Damien as the young master of the Clyde family. Huber was stunned upon hearing this. He had not only lost, but lost completely to, "I told you before, never underestimate Ellie." Ellie looked at the man before her with a beaming smile. "Good day, sir. I didn't expect we'd meet again so soon." Huber looked at Ellie, a little embarrassed. It seemed this child knew all along that he would come back to find her. "Did you know I was testing you just now?" "Yes, I knew everything." Huber was astonished. He never thought this child would be so meticulous in her thinking. Having predicted his prediction, he was thoroughly convinced of his defeat. Such a person was worthy of his dedicated assistance. He bowed to Ellie again. "Helen Huber, I will serve by your side from now on." Ellie smiled, having gained Mr. Huber's assistance. The road ahead for her and Damien would be much smoother. "I'll be in your care from now on." Since Ellie successfully gained Huber's approval, Huber, as her teacher, diligently tutored Ellie, teaching her various subjects. Originally, Ellie thought he would teach her how to be a good hostess. Unexpectedly, Huber taught her economics and the relationship between class hierarchy and the wealth gap. Ellie noticed that the Clyde Merchant Guild had hired many female employees. Because most female employees had children, the guild had developed a special plan to alleviate their financial pressure. Ellie greatly admired the guild's decision-makers. They did not hold prejudices against women despite their low status in this world. Ellie looked as if she wanted to say something, but was hesitating. She mentioned an aunt she used to know who had a great need for diapers after giving birth. But for commoners, disposable diapers were too much of a luxury. She could only use diapers made from old clothes, washing them repeatedly every day, which was very difficult. Those female employees probably had similar troubles. Seeing Huber's thoughtful expression, Ellie seized the opportunity to introduce the topic. She introduced Huber to the regal tree she had discovered at the Baron's house. The bark of this tree had super strong water absorption, and its surface remained very dry after use. It was perfect for making things like diapers. Huber was deeply inspired. He quickly discussed it with Garrett and created a diaper prototype using the regal tree, naming it Dry Comfort. It was used on a small scale within the Merchant Guild. Not only could newborn babies use it, but it also provided convenience for women during their special time of the month and for the elderly. It received a great deal of positive feedback. After being launched on the market, it quickly gained recognition. Huber told Ellie this good news, praising her idea as brilliant. At this point, Ellie proposed her idea again. Sell it to the guild's employees at a price lower than the market rate, and provide a certain number of dry comforts each month to female employees and employees with babies. This was also part of Ellie's personal wish, because in this world, not many women could work outside the home. Most were housewives. Against this social backdrop, those women who overcame prejudice to work outside the home were exceptionally brave, and Ellie's proposal was to secure the most basic welfare for them. Huber strongly agreed with this idea. This way, even more people will want to work for the Merchant Guild. But Ellie's ideas didn't stop there. A few days later, Ellie and Garrett came to an orphanage. In the name of the Clyde Merchant Guild, they donated funds and dry comforts. Ellie was very grateful to Garrett for accompanying her in all this. Thanks to him, her plan could proceed smoothly. Ellie recalled her time at the orphanage. Those young children, lacking care, would often wet the bed at night out of fear of the dark. The next day, they could only wash the sheets with their own small hands. And when girls reached puberty, they would be kicked out of the orphanage because their monthly special period would increase the orphanage's expenses. Ellie's donation of these supplies was not just out of kindness. She also hoped these children would have a good impression of the Merchant Guild, so that they could help the guild after they grew up. Just then, a voice called out to Ellie. It was Grace. The girl was delivering supplies to the orphanage and happened to run into Grace. But Grace felt incredibly guilty upon seeing Ellie, because she was the one who had presumptuously told the fake priest, Aubrey, about her situation, causing Ellie to be injured and threatened. But Ellie didn't mind at all. It was also thanks to Grace that she was able to get rid of Aubrey earlier than in the original story, avoiding more sacrifices. She comforted the crying Grace. It wasn't your intention, so don't feel guilty or sad anymore. Soon, it was time to leave. On the way back, Garrett asked Ellie if she wanted to go back and see the Holy Orphanage. Ellie thought about it and refused. Although she really wanted to go back to the place she once stayed, now was not the time. She didn't yet have enough power to change their circumstances. When she found a way to make everyone happy, she would definitely go back. Dry Comfort was officially launched on the market. It quickly won a lot of praise. Ellie looked at the report with satisfaction. Meanwhile, the Duke held her in his arms, feeding her snacks. Garrett would report the sale situation to the Duke every week, and she would come along with Huber under the pretext of having a lesson. Ellie was immersed in the silky deliciousness of the chocolate. Suddenly, she remembered that everyone had been saying she'd gotten fat recently. The Duke poked her little face. Were you fat? Have another one. Just then, Huber and Garrett arrived. Ellie greeted them warmly. As soon as Garrett sat down, he began to report on the sales of Dry Comfort. Both in the market and within the guild, the purchase rate was constantly rising, especially the free trial plan proposed by Ellie, which led many satisfied customers to buy again. At this point, Garrett had something he wanted to tell the Duke. But as soon as he saw the Duke, his habit of getting nervous kicked in again. To ease his tension, Ellie handed him a piece of chocolate that I always feel full of energy after eating this. So you have one too, big brother. You can do it. Ellie's thoughtful gesture moved him deeply. He was about to take it when the Duke intercepted it and popped it into his own mouth. After savoring it, he revealed a satisfied smile. Oh sweet. Ellie was annoyed. He doesn't even like sweets. Why did he have to snatch someone else's? Seeing this, Garrett didn't dare to delay and directly stated his idea. If we want to increase the long-term purchase rate, we also need to make donations to other places. For example, to academies. If we donate to the students in the academies and they're satisfied after trying it, they will become our consumers after they grow up. Ellie was very satisfied with Garrett's idea. The Duke also told him to go ahead and do it. But if you don't do it well, you'll have to accept punishment. Ellie picked up a piece of chocolate and actively fed it to the Duke. Thank you for agreeing to Garrett's proposal. This is my gift to you. You will honor me by accepting it, won't you? It was rare for Ellie to show him affection so proactively. The Duke gladly accepted. Just then, Huber reminded the Duke, shouldn't we start preparing for the young master and Miss Ellie's wedding? The Emperor has already heard the rumors. To prevent any accidents, we need to hurry up and get them married. But the Duke felt like his own precious cabbage was about to be taken by someone else and looked very displeased. He lowered his head and asked for Ellie's opinion. But Ellie showed great anticipation for the wedding. I like Damien so much. Of course I have to marry him. Then she couldn't wait to run off and tell Damien the good news. Looking at the overjoyed Ellie, the Duke's heart ached. I've raised this daughter for nothing. I'm so good to her, yet she leaves without a second glance. The Duke could only vent his anger on the innocent Garrett. Garrett wailed silently in his heart, Miss Ellie, please take me with you. Ever since the wedding date for Ellie and Damien was set, all the servants in the Duke's mansion became busy, and as the wedding approached, Ellie also grew a little nervous. Although it was just a formality for her, she couldn't help but feel uneasy. Most importantly, Ellie rarely got to see Damien recently. Before, they could at least eat together. But as Lord Hoopa arranged more and more lessons for Damien, even this little time together was gone. So they could only see each other once a day before bed. But Damien had to get up for class in the early morning, and Ellie couldn't bear to delay his rest time. Although she understood Hoopa's urgent desire to cultivate an heir, Damien was only 11 years old and also needed time to relax and play. For Damien to have a balance of work and rest and grow up healthy, Ellie decisively climbed out the window. She was going to find Damien. The boy was listening to the lecture attentively. His excellent learning ability made even Hoopa marvel. His concentration and comprehension were truly extraordinary. But whenever he mentioned anything about Ellie, Damien would immediately shift his attention, staring at him with the alertness of a wild beast. To care so much, Ellie was truly worthy of being a descendant of the Clyde family. The successive heads of the Clyde family were all doting maniacs who were unconditionally obedient to their wives. They were ruthless towards their enemies, but when facing their wives, they would perfectly hide this side. Hoopa guessed that Ellie didn't know Damien's other face. After all, in front of Ellie, Damien was always a gentle and well-behaved little boy. And thanks to Miss Ellie, he not only discovered Viscount Kohler's conspiracy and the Salome family schemes, but also had a great business sense. But Hoopa couldn't fully trust Ellie yet. After all, future developments were more important. At this moment, a maid came to report something to Hoopa. After Hoopa left, Damien looked out the window, wondering what Ellie was doing now. The brief daily meeting before bed could not soothe his longing for Ellie. He really wanted to be by Ellie's side, who knew that in the next second, Ellie's figure would appear outside the window. The person he had been longing for suddenly appeared. Damien was very pleasantly surprised, looking at the girl's brilliant smile. The boy's heartbeat fell out of rhythm. Did you hear my heart's voice? Ellie grabbed Damien's hand. Quick, come with me. If Lord Hoopa finds out later, it was the lady who deliberately led him away. It'll be too late. Damien climbed onto the windowsill, bewildered. Where are we going? To play, of course. The two little ones arrived in the woods. Looking at the vast white snow, Damien didn't know what Ellie was up to. He only saw Ellie form a snowball. She threw it at a large tree. Let's have a snowball fight. Ellie thoughtfully put gloves on Damien. Damien felt that Ellie had a magical power about her. Even though she was right beside him, he didn't want to be separated from her for a single moment. He wished they could be together like this forever, never to be parted. The boy's gaze was warm. He didn't know yet that this fluttering in his heart was love. Suddenly, a snowball landed at his feet, pulling him back from his thoughts. Damien was startled and felt a little wronged. Ellie coaxed him with a smile. The two little ones started a snowball fight in the vast, snowy landscape. The woods echoed with bursts of joyful laughter. The boy skipped class for the first time, and it was to play with the girl he loved. The two little ones played and frolicked in the snow all day, until they were so tired they collapsed on the snow, giggling foolishly. It was only then that Ellie realized they had reached the shore of the Red Lake. The cursed, dark red water had once claimed many lives. But why were the trees by the lake so vibrant if the water was polluted? And they looked even sturdier than those elsewhere. Ellie told Damien her question. He also felt that the various rumors about this lake were very strange. Ellie carefully recalled the content about the Red Lake in the original novel. The female lead, Isabel, had once discovered a type of red gemstone, but it was no ordinary gemstone. It was a red godstone. As long as spiritual power was injected into it, the godstone could be used indefinitely. The Duke's house officially possessed the godstone, which was how it gained the same status as the temple. Before this, the Duke had thought Isabel was a spy sent by the temple. But after this incident, he opened his heart to the female lead. But with the current discovery of the godstone, the imperial capital was under the temple's control. Where did Isabel find it? Ellie unconsciously moved closer to the red lake in front of her. Could it be inside the red lake? Just then, Damien suddenly grabbed Ellie's hand. Didn't you promise me you wouldn't put yourself in danger again? Were you just thinking of getting close to the Red Lake? Faced with Damien's questioning, Ellie found it hard to explain. So as not to worry him, Ellie gave up her search. She took Damien's hand, and they headed home together. On the way, Ellie asked about Damien's lessons. Although the classes were numerous, he found them very interesting. The book said that ancient humans would cultivate plants with magic and also infuse them with spiritual power. This sentence suddenly gave Ellie an idea. She had a sudden realization. She knew the reason why the trees by the Red Lake were so robust. Ellie excitedly thanked Damien. She struck a pose, took a deep breath, and shouted to the sky, Talum. In a short while, a crow person was circling overhead. It was the first time Damien had seen a crow transform into its original form, and he was very shocked. Ellie didn't have time to explain. She told Talum to extract a branch from the tree. Talum changed back into a crow. It began to peck furiously at the tree trunk. Suddenly, something fell out of the trunk. Ellie hurried over to check. It was just as she had expected. It was a red gemstone. Talum recognized it as a godstone at a glance. He swore on his 500 years of bird life that this was definitely a godstone. Hearing this, Ellie was too excited for words. She was going to be rich. The boy and girl who skipped class to play wildly were caught by their teacher upon returning home. Did you two have fun? Ellie apologized to Hoopa, a little embarrassed. But she had an unexpected discovery from this trip. Ellie took out the red godstone. We found this. This huge discovery stunned Hoopa. Ellie grinned. So was this trip worth it or what? Hoopa carefully studied the godstone and felt that the various anomalies occurring around the Red Lake were likely related to it. Moreover, the cause of death for those who died at the Red Lake was likely not drowning, but loss of control over their spiritual power. The human body naturally has spiritual power. Forcibly injecting more spiritual power than one's body can handle can cause illness or even death. The discovery of the godstone might be able to clear the Schutz's territory of the slander that is cursed. Hoopa first affirmed that Ellie's abilities were indeed impressive compared to her peers, but at the same time, he raised a question. Where did you find this? And how did you know it was a godstone? Ellie felt a little guilty. Luckily, she reacted quickly, explaining that Talum had told her while they were playing just now. Hoopa thought about it and felt it made sense. The Crow Person clan was indeed more knowledgeable about godstones. Then how did you think to look for a godstone in a tree? Now, Ellie didn't know how to explain. At the critical moment, Damien touched her shoulder, giving her a hint. It was Damien who told me. He shared what he learned in class with me, and I got the inspiration from that. Damien also confirmed that this was the case. Although having the godstone would be a great help to their business, Hoopa was also worried. In the future, their friction with the temple would grow larger and larger. This was also what Ellie was worried about. In the original novel, it was the female lead, Isabel, who mediated the conflict between the two. Would discovering the godstone ahead of time cause problems? Hoopa told the Duke about Ellie's discovery. The Duke was stunned the moment he saw the godstone. Looking at the crystal clear red gemstone, the Duke's thoughts were brought back to the past. Back then, Julia was still by his side. One day, Julia wanted a red gemstone as beautiful as the Duke's eyes. She wanted the Duke to go with her by it. The Duke tucked a rose into his lover's hair. Why'd I have to go too? Because you have to pick one too. I want you to buy a green gemstone, one the same color as my eyes. But now, the Duke had searched everywhere. There was simply no color in this world that was the same as hers. The Duke told Hoopa to have all the godstones mined and to release them into the Eastern market first. But they were not to announce that they were godstones. They were going to compete with the temple and use this to strike at the temple's source of funding. because the Eastern Temple had still not approved Damien's marriage certificate. This was a good opportunity to put pressure on them. But under whose name should they sell these godstones? It had to be someone who wouldn't directly expose Ellie's name, yet could show a desire to restrain the temple. Hoopa thought of a suitable person. The Duke understood immediately. It would be someone from Ellie's maternal family, her nominal brother, Jarek. He had been waiting with great anticipation. After the build-up of the previous 62 episodes, he finally got to see Ellie and Damien get married. Ever since the Duke released the Godstones into the Easter market, they became a common commodity. The temple, fearing it would lose the market in the face of the Duke's low-price competition, used the retraction of the Schutz family's Godstones as a condition, and approved Damien and Ellie's marriage overnight. The certificate finally arrived. The wedding day was here. On the day of the ceremony, Ellie was pulled up early in the morning by the maids to get dressed. She wore delicate roses in her hair. Dressed in a wholly white wedding gown, Ellie looked at her dolled-up self, feeling a bit unaccustomed to it. The maids were all amazed by Ellie's beauty. "You are the most beautiful and lovely bride in the world." Just then, the aide-de-camp, Antai, came to ask how Ellie's preparations were going. He was stunned by Ellie at first glance. Before he could even speak, he was pushed aside by the Duke. "Who allowed you to see the bride so casually?" The Ellie before him was like a fairy who had walked out of fairy tale. With the slight rustle of her skirt, she was like a lily blooming in the morning light, pure and elegant. The Duke stared unconsciously, only coming back to his senses after a long moment. Under Ellie's expectant gaze, the Duke repeatedly praised her beauty. Truly beautiful. Ellie noticed the rope knot she had personally worn at the Duke's waist. "Your Grace, did you wear it on purpose?" But why did his expression seem a bit lonely? Just like a father sending his daughter off to be married. "Let me be your father today." The Duke offered to walk Ellie down the aisle. This should have been the bride's father's duty. Baron Amanta, her rightful adoptive father, wouldn't dare argue with him. He quickly said he didn't mind. The Duke extended his hand to Ellie. "All right, daughter, let's go out now." "Okay, father." Under the gaze of friends and family, the Duke slowly walked Ellie down the aisle. But the Duke's expression was quite gloomy. Today was clearly for Damien to take a wife. So why did he feel the reluctance of marrying off a daughter? Ellie was a bit baffled. He was smiling so happily just now. What was wrong now? She quietly reminded the Duke to watch his expression. "Don't always look like you're about to kill someone." Damien, dressed in a white suit, had been waiting for a long time. Seeing the girl he loved standing beside him in a wedding dress, Damien unconsciously blushed. Today's Damien was a far cry from his usual calm and composed self. As a first-time groom, he was so nervous he didn't know what to do with his hands, only knowing how to praise Ellie's beauty. "The most beautiful in the whole world." The officiant announced the official start of Damien and Ellie's wedding ceremony. Under the witness of all, they exchanged vows of eternal love. Finally, may the bride and groom offer each other a vows kiss. Who knew the Duke would be displeased upon hearing this? "They're such young children. What are you making them do?" The officiant quickly explained that this was a normal procedure. They just had a kiss on the cheek. Seeing that the Duke was about to lose his temper, Ellie quickly planted a kiss on Damien's cheek. Now Damien's face turned completely red. He was so startled he backed up several meters. The Duke was thoroughly displeased. He told Antai to tie up the officiant later. Amidst the blessings of the crowd, the wedding concluded successfully, and the officiant magnificently disappeared from everyone's sight. The Duke came before the newlyweds to congratulate them. "From now on, we are truly a family." Ellie was filled with emotion. The thief's daughter, of lowly blood, a useless piece of trash. Her identity was once despised by everyone, but today she finally had a new name and family. Amidst the blessings of friends and family, Ellie and Damien's wedding was successfully completed. At the wedding banquet, as Ellie's adoptive mother, Baroness Pyrrha, came to offer her blessings. She hadn't been able to meet Ellie before due to illness, and came especially to express her thanks this time. Pyrrha looked at her husband and son. She confessed that it was thanks to Ellie's help that her family could get along so harmoniously. She even felt that her illness had improved a lot. Looking at the girl's cute little face, Pyrrha couldn't help but stroke her hair. She suddenly remembered that Ellie was now the young Duchess of the Duke's household. Pyrrha quickly apologized for her presumptuous behavior. Actually, after Ellie became the young Duchess, she felt much more at ease, because this way, no one could touch her casually, not even His Majesty the Emperor. Ellie was a bit confused after hearing this. She was the daughter of a thief. The Emperor would surely dislike her. But why would the Baroness worry that the Emperor would act against her? What Ellie cared about were the Duke and Damien. She worried the Emperor would use her as an excuse to harm them. So, when the time was right, she had to dissolve the marriage contract. Just then, Garrett's arrival interrupted Ellie's thoughts. He had a proposal. He was considering opening a salon. In fact, he had this idea a long time ago. But his father said it wasn't something a grown man should do and was strongly against it. Ellie, however, was particularly in favor of this proposal. The main customers of a salon are women. If the salon offered guests free refreshments, it would definitely be a great help for promotion. Plus, with the large flow of customers in a salon, it's a hub for gossip. It would also be convenient for them to gather useful information. With so many benefits and the ability to make money, they certainly couldn't miss this good opportunity. Brother, I will cheer for you. You must work hard. Ellie's encouragement greatly boosted Jarek's confidence. He wanted Ellie to give more suggestions for the salon business. After all, even Lord Hoopa had said that with Ellie's help, it would surely provide a great initiative for the salon business. Ellie was secretly pleased. Hoopa was finally starting to acknowledge her abilities. Brother, let's start talking about it now. Inside the imperial palace, the Empress listened coldly to her maid's report. Which concubine did the Emperor favor tonight? The Empress paused her actions after hearing the report. That newly favored woman had a pair of green eyes. She sighed helplessly. Why are men in this world always obsessed with what they can't have? She couldn't possibly eliminate all the women with green eyes. To think that 15 years had passed, and the Emperor was still unable to forget that woman. The Empress felt she was somewhat ridiculous. She once believed that with her charm, she could surely make the Emperor devoted to her. But unexpectedly, after she and the Emperor were married, he actually made her own half-sister, Mayalai, his concubine. Even though the two of them looked almost like twins, the Emperor still insisted on taking her into the harem. In the Empress's eyes, Mayalai was cunning and despicable, daring to touch what belongs to others.